Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Barbara, could you please call the roll?
Yes, we have Commissioners Parfrey, Sales, Noonan, and Moss present.
Thank you. I think all of you know that this proceeding will be broadcast on Channel 35. And before we get started, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Passover or Easter or whatever you celebrate. I wish you and your family the best. And now I think we're ready for public comment. I believe we have 4 speaker cards for public comment.
Okay. You didn't want to go to item 2 and 3?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. I tried to jump ahead of myself. Why don't we start with the report from the general manager?
We could make it a very short report, Mr. President. Actually, I only have one key item here today, and that is in our last meeting, there were some questions that were raised with respect to a couple of bids relating to the use of our efforts associated with minority and women-owned businesses, and felt that since there's been a pretty significant change in last year or so in the board, that and the issue hasn't been discussed, I think, in probably several years, probably predating most of the board members' tenure here, obviously predating my tenure here as GM. That it would be worthwhile to have an overview of what some of those procedures are. So to the extent there are any questions about that, it would be good. I think we have Samuel Collins here to be able to, who's our head of supply management, to give an overview with regard to that, that topic.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Samuel Collins, Acting Director of Supply Chain Services. Like the General Manager stated, the last board meeting there were several questions regarding the Department's Supply Diversity Program. And what I'm going to do today is just touch on some of the policies that we have regarding supply diversity. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the efforts that the Department is currently doing to outreach to minority and business-owned enterprises as well as all other enterprises as well. I'm also going to touch a little bit on some changes that will be taking place based on a new executive directive that was signed by the mayor in January. And I'll try to be as brief as I can. As far as the policies are concerned, the Department Supply Diversity Program started back in 1985. And at that time, we actually had goals of 12% and 4% for minority and for women-owned businesses. In 1991, those actually were increased to 15 and 7, which is currently what we have as far as our goals. In 2005, the policy was actually amended to include material procurement only when realistic subcontracting opportunities exist. And that's specifically what the resolution says. So that is basically what we have been operating under. So if there was realistic subcontracting opportunities for materials, we would then include the good faith effort requirements in the contracts. So all contracts are evaluated for it. And if we feel that there is reasonable opportunities for subcontracting, then it's included in there. That responsibility was actually given to the general manager, and that was delegated to the contract compliance officer, who is one of my managers, and her group is the one that oversees that effort. And we discussed this a little bit the last time. The Supply Diversity Program is based on the good faith effort. In other words, what we are evaluating is the effort that was made by all the bidders to outreach. We're not evaluating the actual participation, but their efforts. We have 10 evaluation criteria that we use. Each bidder is required to get at the minimum 75 of 100 points possible. And if they pass it, then they're deemed responsive. If they happen to be the lowest bidder, then we recommend them for award of the contract. One thing I wanted to add too, there is an executive directive 2001-26 that basically was the last executive directive related to good faith effort. And in that particular executive directive, it actually states that an awarding authority shall not deny award to a company that actually passed the good faith effort but failed to meet the anticipated participation levels, because what we're doing is evaluating the effort, not the actual numbers. So that's, once again, is the direction that the directive that we're using and we're following as we speak. As far as our current practices, what we do, anytime we have a contract, whether it's construction, professional services, or materials, there is a review process that takes place. It's a collaborative effort between the Supply Diversity Group and also the contract administrator. What they're looking at is looking at previous contracts. They're looking at existing spec that's being reviewed to see if there's opportunities. They also look at the market. Sometimes there's changes in the marketplace. There's a new niche that provides an opportunity for subcontracting that did not exist before. And based on that evaluation, there's a determination made whether or not we include the good faith effort in that particular specification. Currently, as I mentioned before, we do not use GFE on all materials contracts. We do it when we feel that there is substantial opportunity, and this is something that other proprietaries do as well. It's not done blanket for everything all the time. So there is an evaluation process that's being done. So we're consistent with that. As far as outreach efforts, the question was, what does DWP do to ensure that we're reaching out to as many people as possible? And we have a pretty elaborate program. One of the things that we do on a yearly basis is we host a outreach event. We actually do 2 of these. We do one in June and then one in October. And we invite all contractors to attend these activities. The purpose is to give them information regarding upcoming contracts that we have, opportunities for them. We also provide information for those who need bond assistance. The city has a bond assistance program, so the administrator of the program participates in the meeting. We also provide them the opportunity that if they're not registered LADWP vendors, to register on site. We have staff available to do that as well. For these meetings, what we do in the form of advertising is we post it on our website. We also post it on the city's Business Assistance Virtual Network, which we call BAVON, as well as is in local newspapers. We directly engage the minority and women organizations, giving them the information so that they can disseminate it to their own members to make sure that we have as much coverage as possible. We also send notifications to the mayor's Minority Business Opportunity Center, as well as we invite the mayor, all council members, all you board members, and the executive managers as well to participate in these events. And these are 2 that we do standard. We also do events at the request of whether the water or the power system. In January, we did one for mainline installation and tunneling work. There's a lot of work coming up in Jim's area, so we actually had an event specifically for that. And once again, the idea is to bring subs, to bring primes together and explain to them what they need to do and how to maximize their chances of being successful bidding. So those are some of the things that we're doing. All the contracts that we have, we also do post them on BAVON. BAVON is the city's official vehicle to advertise contracts for the city of Los Angeles. And we have been doing that for many years, and we will continue to do so, so that if you are registered in BAVON, you will see the opportunities there. And the way it's done is based on the commodity code. If you happen to be registered in that commodity code, you actually get notified whether you are a DWP contractor or not. If you're not and you want to bid, then you need to become a DWP vendor, but you're able to see it. And one thing that you will see a lot of times in our board letters, it'll say, based on BAVON statistical data, X number of people viewed it, Y number of people downloaded it. And those are the individuals that basically are going into BAVON and seeing the opportunity, downloading it, and potentially bidding as well. So we try to make sure that it gets out as much as possible. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some outreach changes that are going to take place. In January of this year, the mayor signed Executive Directive number 14, which is entitled the Business Inclusion Program. And the purpose of this was to expand the outreach beyond just MEBs and WEBs. This particular directive is not, we're not subject to it directly. However, the mayor's office has requested that all boards for the proprietary departments pass policy that's consistent with the business inclusion program. And my staff is currently working on a proposal. We're going to be sending that up to the general manager, and upon his concurrence and approval, then we'll bring it to the board. Basically, that'll be our plan to comply with the mayor's new executive directive. And this directive actually replaced the good faith effort. So what does it cover? What it does is that it expands outreach to now include small business enterprises, emerging business enterprises, and also disabled veteran enterprises. This is a race and gender neutral policy, therefore you're able to set hard targets. And the idea is obviously most MVEs and WBEs happen to also be small business, and they'll be able to register as both and have the opportunity to bid. Some of the other things that were done, officially it was stipulated that Bavon is the official way to advertise all opportunities, and we've been doing that for many years. The change is that also they're requiring that Bavon be the way in which all prime contractors have to do their outreach. So when they're sending notifications to potential subs, letting them know about the opportunities, it has to be done with Bavon. That way, city staff can see it online and they can track it to make sure they're doing the right thing. Currently, we receive all that via paper when they submit their bids. So with a new directive, it'll be done electronically using Bavon. And the other thing that is being done here is the mayor's holding each department responsible for monitoring and being accountable for their participation by subcontractors. And he's also forming an advisory committee that is going to be overseeing the goals that we have on a yearly basis and also overseeing the actual success of each department when it comes to supplier diversity. Like I said before, and just in closing, my staff is currently assessing it, and we expect to have a proposal to the board by June. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Questions? Commissioner Nguyen, I think was first.
Is that okay?
Yes, please.
I apologize for my ignorance, but what's the proper spelling of Bavon?
It's BAVN. It's called the Business Assistance Virtual Network.
Okay. And how were they selected, and how can you confirm that they're unbiased as to who they invite to participate?
Who was selected? Bavon? Bavon is a computer system. It's an internet-based system. So when somebody wants to bid on a job for the city, they log on to this computer system, and all the opportunities are listed there.
So it's a well-known fact
It is a well-known fact.
contractors
Yes.
that that's the place to go.
Absolutely, yes. I couldn't tell you how long it's been established, but it's been there for many, many years. And all vendors registered with the City of Los Angeles go in there to register and also to see opportunities.
Okay. And do you know how long the DWP has contracted with them?
I believe that we have been posting our opportunities there, I would say a good 5-6 years, if not longer. At least from my time as a contract administrator back many years ago, that was already established, and it could actually be longer than that. So I don't have an exact date on that. Maybe my staff does.
Okay. And have you gotten any criticisms from companies that felt like they weren't included or felt that they weren't notified about these bids? I just want to make sure that it's a very clean process.
Yeah, there have been companies that at some points have said, hey, I never got this particular notification. A lot of times it has to do with when you register, you need to also register your commodity code, which basically says this is the type of business that I'm in, and the kind of services I provide. Based on that, when the notifications go out, it's looking at that. So if you have a construction contract, it has a particular code. Anybody that has that code in their registration would get notified. So sometimes what happens is they put a very generic code or not quite that one, and they don't get it. So what happens is once they learn that, they go back in and they update their profile and they include that commodity code to ensure that they're getting those opportunities. Although they can always go in and check randomly without having to get notified as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. As the newest commissioner, I found it very helpful, and that will help to guide me. I was wondering if I might be able to get something, or get for the commission something in writing that sort of summarizes this. So
Absolutely. We actually have a draft already where we're going to be providing you with copies of the executive directives that were passed by several mayors, starting with Mayor Bradley. We're also going to give you copies of the resolutions that were passed by the previous DWP boards regarding this issue. We're also going to be a little write-up on what we're doing as far as the business inclusion program, and that should be coming to you pretty shortly.
great. Thank you much.
Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Collins, I have a question related to a different matter, but while you're in front of us, I thought you might be able to answer it. We've been, looking at the news reports coming out of Japan and the horrible earthquake and tsunami that has impacted that nation, and our hearts go out to them. I wanted to ask you a related question about our own utility supply chain, and if that has indeed been impacted by the devastation in Japan. I know that, for example, that Hitachi supplies some of our key instruments at the Castaic power plant, and I'm curious to hear if there has been an impact on our ability to function as a utility, given the devastation in Japan.
At this point, I have not heard of any direct impact. I'm sure that there's suppliers that do provide materials coming from Japan, but it's not been made aware to me that there's been any issues with us securing materials or services because of what happened in Japan.
Thank you.
I also want to thank you for this report. It's very helpful. I do have a few questions and a few requests for clarification. So the current goal now is 15 for MBE and 7 for WBE?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And how are we doing relative to that goal?
I think relative to that goal, we're right about at 15 and 7 as a department. I think what you'll see is that there's certain contracts where there is greater subcontracting opportunity and the numbers are quite higher than 15 and 7. There are others where we have very little participation. So when you average it out, I think as a department we're doing well. But I do believe that the goal is to also try to do that across all contracts whenever possible. So to make sure that we're getting 15 and 7 from any contract that does have a good faith effort.
But in the aggregate, we're
In
fairly
the
close
aggregate,
to the
yes.
goals.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You mentioned that the GFE requirement only applies when there's a reasonable opportunity, a
Yes.
reasonable subcontracting opportunity.
Yes.
So I have several questions about that. Who makes that determination?
That determination is made by the supply diversity analyst and the contract administrator. And based on their analysis, that is then provided to the supply relations manager, who is the department's contract compliance officer as well. And she reviews it, and if she approves it, then that is what we put in the contract.
So the ultimate decision maker is who? Just so I'm clear.
Is the contract compliance officer for the department.
And is that, who is that?
Her name, Phyllis Palomino. She's actually in the audience right now.
And this notion that we should only, that those requirements should only apply under certain circumstances, based on what? Is that based on city ordinance? Is that the department's interpretation? Is it driven by statute? Or?
Initially, when the department passed the resolution where it established a good faith effort, it was based on my readings, basically, when I'm going on my readings. This is back from the early 80s. It felt that because with materials, the opportunities are less from the perspective that when you look at those contracts, a lot of times what you have is the actual material being supplied and perhaps sometimes things like transportation. The decision was made that instead of mandating it for everything, you need to look at those individually. And that's what we do. We look at them individually and see if there's opportunities. Certain material contracts also have a service component to them. For example, you're providing training or some kind of service with it, you could potentially see that. Or if you're buying materials that require to be altered, like in the case of the vehicle contracts, the one where we're doing a lot of customization, there is that opportunity. And in that case is when they get included in there. But every single contract is evaluated.
Yeah, no, I wasn't asking how you went about doing it. I was asking, what's the basis for that determination?
The basis for the
That's something-
determination, oh, sorry, go
But
ahead.
did the department, or are we legally required to use that interpretation of good faith efforts? Is that something the department voluntarily chose to do for business reasons? It's what's behind the determination?
My understanding that it was a business reason, based on what I've seen and the direction that was given in the past, it was based 100% business reason. It was not a legal requirement.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, not every single department in the city does a GFE. There's one city department that does not do a good faith effort. The policies that were passed as executive directives by the mayor, by the previous mayors, give a certain amount of latitude, and because of that, you see quite a big variety of how it's implemented. So I don't think it's a legal issue; it's a business policy and a business decision.
Do we know of the contracts we issue each year? Do we know what percentage we choose not to apply the GFE requirement?
I don't know that off the top of my head, sir.
Yeah.
But I can get you that information.
I would be curious to
Yeah.
see. Okay. On this executive directive, I think it's 201-26 you made
Yes,
reference to?
correct.
And is that was that passed by the board of DWP? Is that a mayor's directive? Who's the
That's a mayor's
executive?
directive.
That's
That is
from
a
the
mayor's
office.
directive,
Okay.
Mayor Reardon, and that was signed February 8, 2001, and that was the good faith effort. As a matter of fact, this is one of many executive directives. This was the last one actually under the good faith effort umbrella, and the purpose of this one was mainly to clarify and to enumerate the factors that you need to use in evaluating whether or not somebody has passed or not passed the good faith effort.
But I think the bottom line of that executive directive is that you can't deny a contract based on the ultimate results.
Correct, correct. The exact language, if you wanted to read it, says, "In no case shall an awarding authority deny award of a contract to a bid or proposer pursuant to this program if the bid or proposer complies with a good faith effort but fails to meet the anticipated levels of participation."
Do we draw a distinction between service contracts and commodity contracts for purposes of the good faith requirement?
Yes, we do. Usually on service contracts, most of them you'll see that we actually have good faith effort.
In most service contracts,
Yes.
we do. And what about in commodity contracts?
On commodity contracts, which I consider material contracts, most of the time, no, you probably will not see it.
And why is that?
Once again, because when analysis is done and they're looking at what they consider a reasonable opportunity, most of the time the conclusion is that there isn't that reasonable opportunity. You will see transportation tends to be one of the probably more prevalent opportunities. On most contracts, that represents 0.5%, maybe 1 and 2%. So the determination is made that that is not significant enough to require all bidders to go to the good faith effort program when they may or may not even provide us with any participation and the opportunity is so minute. So usually that's the reason why, sir.
So do we do that on a case-by-case basis? Or
Yes.
do we actually make a determination if it's a commodity, the GFE does not apply?
It's done on a case-by-case basis. Every single specification that is over $150,000, has to be a formal contract, we do an evaluation. So it's not just based on a category. Like today in the agenda, there is 2 specs for vehicles. One had the good faith effort, the other one did not.
And that's a good example. And
Yes.
Can you describe why it applied in one case and why it didn't apply in the other?
Yes, in that particular case, because the contract that has the good faith effort requirement, the vehicles have a substantial amount of customization that's being made. These are the pickup trucks. So most of that work, a lot of that work is being subcontracted. The other contract, we're buying basically off the lot, out of stock vehicles. There's no customization taking place. Both of them obviously have transportation, but we're looking at percentages that are less than 1%, maybe 2% at most. So on the one that has it, it was driven by the fact that we have a lot of customization. And when you see the subs that are doing the work and are listed, it's all custom work they're doing on the vehicles.
Okay, so our view is that there's a higher likelihood of subcontracting opportunities
Correct.
if there's customization work to be done.
In that particular case, yes, correct.
So I guess I'm still struggling with this idea, though, that even if it's a commodity item, why couldn't the prime go to a sub and get a portion of the commodity from a subcontractor?
They could potentially do that, and they're still open to doing that. Is the issue the requirement of good faith effort? If we have that requirement there and somebody provides us with the lowest bid, but they fail it, we award away. And one of the concerns is that the number of award aways that we would do, in other words, we're not awarding away from the lowest bidder, would potentially increase. And I don't have data to substantiate this, but that is a concern, that we're putting a requirement that it'd be very difficult for some of these individuals who, if they're manufacturing something themselves, they're not going to bring a second party into their manufacturing process, because obviously they need to look at the quality assurance and make sure that the product they're providing is their product. So usually, in most cases, transportation becomes one of those easy targets to put out there for subcontracting. Most of them do have long-standing relationships with their transportation companies because they give them an awful lot of business. Obviously, there's economies of scale when it comes to the pricing they get as well. So therefore, a lot of times you don't see that requirement in there.
Okay. And the last set of questions I have relate to the mayor's new business inclusion program.
Yes.
Did you say it's going to replace the GFE
Yes.
requirement? So
Yes.
all that goes away now once we approve
Yes, even though it goes away, they're obviously still, they're affirming that they want us to ensure access to MBEs and WBEs for contracts. But the way in which we're doing that and the way in which we're going to measure it is going to be a little different. And by having the small business, emerging business, and disabled veterans, it gives us more opportunities to be a little harder on our goals because they're race and they're gender neutral.
Okay. And does is there a local procurement component to the business inclusion program?
A local bid preference?
Yes.
No, there isn't, sir. That item is a separate issue. We are eagerly anticipating to hear back from the city attorney's office. This is something that I believe this board actually had acted on almost a year ago, or more than a year ago, and it went down to the city council, and it's being worked on by the city attorney's office. We have not gotten it back yet.
Okay. It's always good to blame it on the lawyer, so that's that. I want to thank you for the report. I think it was very helpful, unless the other...
I just have one quick follow-up
Yes.
question to just clarify this. You said there was variability among the departments in
Yes, sir.
how they act on the GFE requirement?
Yes.
And is that within DWP or within the
No,
single
no,
family?
city departments. So a different city department completely.
All right, thank you.
Ron, anything else you want to add to this discussion? Or
There was actually just a clarifying question I'd be interested in, because I'm not sure that I heard the question and the answer in
Oh,
the
okay.
same fashion. That is, there was a question with respect to services versus contracting, for example, I think, in terms of the GFE requirement. And is it clear that irrespective of service, whether it's professional services or non-professional services, we treat them the same? We have no differentiation with regard to our process for GFE or any MBE
Yes.
determinations?
Yes. I mean, even with material contracts, all of them are reviewed equally for their own merits. And when we're looking at services, if it's a professional service which is done via a request for proposal, or if it's a service that's being done via a spec, in other words, put out a bid, they're all evaluated for the potential for subcontracting, and based on that, we determine if the good faith effort policy applies in that case. So they're all looked at equally.
Okay, thank you.
so are there circumstances where we actually do let's take a legal contract, right?
Okay.
The people you like to blame things on. Let's assume, rightfully so, by the way. Do we apply the GFE requirement to say that type of contract? Or do we make the assumption that there's no reasonable chance of, no reasonable opportunities for subcontracts?
For that, I'm going to defer to Mr. Brown, actually, because a lot of legal agreements when it comes to lawyers and stuff are more dictated by his office. So,
Lawyers was just hypothetical. I was really just... But what you're saying
Yeah.
to me, though, is there really is no distinction in terms of how we apply the GFE requirement between service contracts and other contracts.
correct. So, for example, if it's a professional service contract for design services,
Yes.
and we believe that there are opportunities for subcontracting, the good faith effort policy is applied. I personally have managed contracts for design purposes, professional services, that have GFE requirements.
Okay. Good. Well, we await your proposal to implement Executive Order 14.
Yes.
And thank you for your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else in your report, Ron? Anything else, Mr. General Manager? Anything else in your report?
No, there's nothing else, sir.
Thank you. Comments and requests from commissioners? Commissioner Parfrey?
Yes. I am requesting a report back, please, on the status of the on-bill pay study that the department is working on in relation to a stimulus fund grant. I'm also would like to commend the department for the excellent messaging that's been taking place on water conservation, even in light of this being a very wet year, and it's a change that LA absolutely needs to go through. And I would like a report back if the enforcement measures that we have embarked upon are still being carried out, and to what extent. And those are the two reports that I'm seeking at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Noonan or Commissioner Moss? Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, I would just like to reiterate, I understand how valuable everybody's time is, and I know that we spent a lot of time talking about PA consultants in the previous board meeting. I still have difficulty understanding why we would work with this entity and a dual conflict of interest. And this is very pertinent to my professional business. And so I just want to comment on that. I understand in this particular situation on item number 9 that there's familiarity with the project, but moving forward, I don't see the need to use the same firm to represent both sides.
Thank you. I think now it's time for public comment, right?
Yes.
I think we have four speaker cards.
I have
is that
5, actually.
Five now? Barbara?
Okay, just please keep your comments to 2 minutes. The first speaker is John Camera, and after that, Tony Wilkinson.
Hello, by the way, my name is John Camara. That's all
sorry.
right pronunciation.
Welcome, Mr. Camara.
Hi. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mr. Nichols, I'm here today to observe and watch and the accountability that you bring to the department. It's also an exciting time for the City of Los Angeles, especially the Department of Water and Power, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Tony Wilkinson. After that, Don Jones.
Good afternoon. Tony Wilkinson, Chair of the Neighborhood Council Department of Water and Power Memorandum of Oversight, Memorandum of Understanding Oversight Committee. I do want to thank the department and the board for the public accommodation of providing a limited number of parking spaces, first come, first served. It really has a tremendous impact on the perception of openness and accessibility to this meeting. It's a huge a plus for the public, and I thank you very much. And number 7 on the consent agenda, I just can't pass on again saying thank you for the department and the River Project for being so proactive on this, which I think it's a project along Woodland Avenue in my Panorama City area, which is going to demonstrate the practicality of stormwater capture. And stormwater capture, I think, is one of the things that I hear from a lot of public comments. We really need to focus perhaps more than we have in the past because there's an awful lot of that gets wasted. So thank you for that project. And number 9 on the consent agenda, and it was Commissioner Noonan was alleging, referring to this, is a request for a contract for assistance to the department in reevaluating its rate structure, the ECAF, and things like that. I do want to say that it is not too early to begin a dialogue with the public on the components of rates, the green power and how much it costs and how much that actually impacts rates. Commissioner Parfrey twice before had pointed out that we've achieved, and we deserve credit for achieving our wonderful goals, but we still need to pay for it. So I think that I'd hate to see a dialogue on the basic issues with some numbers be deferred, waiting for the consultant, to process its work and make the recommendations, because the sooner we can get out with that with the public, the better. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Don Jones, and after that, Linda Romney.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Don Justin Jones y Lobato. I'm the managing director of COPEC, that stands for Compañía por Ecología. We submitted a request in a response request for proposal to contract 304-10. I'm here today to formally protest that awarding, or that proposed awarding. I'm here, and it was fortuitous that Mr. Collins was here, because I want to give you a real-world effect of your policy now. If you were here and saw the recent long-range plan submitted to the department by Mr. Buettner, you saw that greenhouse gas compliance is scheduled to cost the city between $5 and $10 billion in compliance in the next decade. The companies that received the request for proposal were 4. 2 were selected. Of the 2 that were selected, their workforce numbers are I was allowed to look at these yesterday. Of the total workforce of 53 people, there is not 1 African American. There are 3 Latinas who are clerical in an office in New Jersey. They do not have a Los Angeles presence. In fact, they do not have a California. Well, I should take that back. They have a small office in Orange County. But they're headquartered in New Jersey and London. We're looking at a transfer of wealth of unprecedented proportions to comply. Between $5 and $10 billion will be spent in acquiring or using greenhouse gas emission credits. My company was a pioneer. I've been standing in front of this board in this room since 1992. We were the incumbents in this contract. We are a minority-owned, Los Angeles-based. Our partners are Japanese, Mexican Americans, Anglos. We represent the face of the city here. And for us to see this opportunity, I mean, just look at the numbers. If you're a consultant and you're on a commission, just figure out what the commission is on $5 billion. And then see that money go to New Jersey. See that money go to London. But none of that's going to be spent here because none of these people are local. Now, I know it may sound like sour grapes, but in fact, when you start to throw out processes like realistic and substantial approach, and then you don't even have their affirmative action data in when it was supposed to be submitted. This was submitted in March.
Could you
The
wrap up your
RFP went
remarks,
out and we
please?
submitted in October. I'm just asking you to look at the real-world effect, and I'm glad that there are students here because it's their future. They're the ones who are going to have to pay for this AB 32 compliance in the future. You're looking at between $5 and $10 billion going out the door. Now, I invite you to Google my name and my company's name, and you'll see that we have been working in this area since 1991. We are the only minority firm that has ever done a carbon dioxide offset project in Asia. We're the only minority firm that supplied carbon offsets to the Edison Electric Institute, where we have 64 companies registering our offset credits under the National Energy Policy Act. I've been in the White House. I've been awarded degrees. Not awarded degrees, but awards.
Sir,
there.
could you wrap up your remarks, please? Your time is up.
Yes, ma'am. One final comment. In the Brown administration, I was the civil rights officer for the Department of Health. I know AB 803. I wrote the California Civil Rights Act. I know what affirmative action is. I know what a good faith effort is. And this is not a good faith effort. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Linda Romney, and after that, Candido Morez.
Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. I would like to address ongoing fraud, deceit, and concealment by the Department of Water and Power, and especially by their management. And everything that I'm saying to you, I have substantiated in writing. Specifically, what occurred is an underground water leak. I was unaware of it until I received the bill. I followed all of the procedures outlined by the DWP. I met with the investigation department locally for the Valley and was told I was to receive 100% credit. I sent letter after letter under the California Public Information Act requesting the site, the document, the rule having to do with underground water leaks. I never received anything. I then petitioned for a hearing in front of the alleged independent hearing officer with the commissioner. And you can reference on June 3rd of last year under Linda Romney, because it is taped. For 50 minutes, I'm asking for the document. Finally, after 55 minutes, Letice Williams, who's in management, produced the document that showed that I was entitled to 100%. I appeared in front of this commission in November. I have a letter that was issued as a result of that appearance telling me that I was to at least receive notification or credit for the money that resulted as a result of the water. Meanwhile, they turned off the water for over 7 months on 2 properties. Then I met here on December 7th, and this was substantiated in writing again. I met with Mr. Chin. He told me at the meeting that he would send out a corrected bill and that I was to take care of it within 60 days. Here I am 5 months later. I'm a senior citizen and disabled without water, and I still don't have the corrected bill. I still have the water off on 2 properties. I have over $100,000 in damage on 2 properties just in property damage, not to mention what it's doing to me psychologically. Now I have it all in writing. What does it take for the ratepayers to be represented by the Department of Water and Power? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Candida Morez.
Commissioners, if you could hold our time till they're all. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mr. Nichols, I've been gone for a couple of months, but I want to thank you. We all want to thank you for what's taken place in the last 2 months. These are students from North Hollywood High School. They're here because their parents are struggling to pay their water and power bills. And so because of the changes, Mr. Nichols, just in the last 2 months, along with you, Commissioners, we want to thank you and applaud you for that because, you know, when you see parents struggling to provide lunch and provide clothing for the kids and to at least pay their rent and their mortgages, to see that we're having changes where we're going to hopefully see reductions in rates, or at least will stay at a steady level so that these kids can continue enjoying high school and not have to worry about their parents' health and the fact that they're struggling to make things, make ends meet. So we thank you for that. And also for the changes that took place in this facility. As you know, at the last meeting, I was a little harsh in what I had to say because of the bullying that was taking place after all these years that I've been here. We were here yesterday. There was no meeting. We came back today. But the 2 days were unbelievable. These kids got to experience what it's really like to come to a public facility. So I thank each one of you. If you just be proud of what's happened here, because again, bullies are not allowed anywhere. They shouldn't be allowed to roam any street or any facility. And so today and yesterday was a great experience. We were able to go into the cafeteria and we were able just to sit and watch and experience. And some of these kids may one day want to work here. This young lady, Crystal Nahar, is the president of the BRC committee, Blue Ribbon Committee, and she says one of these days I'm going to hold that position there. So I hope that she does. But again, the changes that have taken place, Mr. Nicholas, it's unbelievable. I've been here since 1992. The cuts that you're talking about, I hope that we really take a look at the lawsuits that are taking place. If we have someone here that is causing the Department of Water and Power lawsuits, the department shouldn't be supporting them. The city attorney shouldn't be backing them. They should hire their own attorneys, and then they should reimburse if they are found innocent of that lawsuit. Also, gas consumption. Folks, people are just struggling to pay for their gas bills. I hope that the department is also doing that and trying to reduce the cost. If you're in a city vehicle, if you're in a DWP vehicle, don't go to the market. Don't go to get your lunch. Please, just bring your lunch with you, save some money. We can save some big dollars there. And lastly, I disagree with Ms. Gruhl. She should have commended the department for reaching the 20% for renewable. I think she's a wonderful woman, but when you see people and you see a department doing whatever they can to reach their goals, I think that we need to compliment them and thank them for their efforts. So, again, thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, that was our last card for number 4.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. President, I need to abstain for the March 1st meeting, but I would move to approve the minutes for the March 7th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing no objections, the motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the March 1st minutes?
Yes. On my behalf, I move so.
Was he here?
We get to deem them filed because we don't have them.
Yeah, we can note and file them
Deem
if
it
we're going to have a
filed.
problem. Yeah.
Until Commissioner Holland's here. Okay.
Okay.
Good. So on the consent agenda, we have no speaker cards for items 7. Item 7.
7 and 9?
And 7 and 9, yes.
Yeah, I don't have a card for 9. I have a card for 6 and 8
Okay, so
on the consent.
are there any, do either one of the commissioners want to pull this and take it off of the consent agenda?
I'd like to-
7 or 9?
Oh, not 7 or 9. I'd like to pull 10, though.
Yeah, just 7 or 9. Okay. So is there a motion to approve 7 and 9?
So moved.
Right.
Second.
Hearing no objection, the motion passes. So items 7 and 9. We have a speaker card, I believe, for item 6. Is that correct?
Yes, I have a card from one person who wanted to speak on 6, 8, 11, and 12.
Okay.
And then a couple of cards for item number 10.
Okay, why don't we hear 6, 8, 11, and 12. That's from one speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you want to speak on all together?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to deal with contracts. I want to talk about contracts in general, if I may.
Let's hold on 12, because that's on the discussion item, because there'll be
Okay.
other speakers
All right.
with it. Yeah.
Well, again, what I'm wanting to talk, what I'd like to talk to is on contracts. I like what I'm hearing from procurement. I've heard it before. I've been around since 1992. I was a member of the Small Advisory Committee back in 2004. The good faith efforts, we hear about that all the time. Back in 2004, we found out that the Department of Water and Power had the weakest good faith effort, so we hope that that's improved. I hope I can get a report of what you're going to be presenting to the commissioners. I'd like to have some input on that. But when I look at these contracts and I look at the way they're awarded, again, I don't see any real substance in them. I don't see the background, the follow-up. And what I'm hearing from people within the department is they're still the same old practices. We're not doing a good enough job on these contracts. One of the issues that's coming up recently, or will come up, is the nurseries that the department has under the properties that you own under the power lines. You're going to be asking people that have had contract with you folks for, maybe 15, 20 years to now bid for the same properties that they've had for all these years. Now, they have all this equipment, they have all this product there, and now you're asking them to bid. Is that a good idea? Is that a good... Every time I'm here, I hear you renew contracts all the time for contracts that have only been around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and yet we have all these nurseries who have been around, many of them, for 15, 20 years. Why are we doing that? Why are we forcing nurseries to rebid on properties that they've been on for many years, that they've invested, and now you want them to go out and bid on these properties? I can be a new person that can come in and say, well, I'd like to have this property. I can underbid the individual that's been there for 10, 15 years, but how are we guaranteed that this person is going to come in and be able to run a nursery there on properties when we have a good, call him a resident or someone that's already had a contract with the department, has had good faith with them? Why are we going to force these people now to bid for properties that we've allowed them to be on for many, many years? So I just hope that we take a look at that. And in regards to the vehicles, my only question on item 12, is that the one you said you were going to hold on, sir?
You can speak on it now, please.
Just quickly, is that it's only for $4,000, but my question is there something in the contract there that's going to allow them to have an extension or an increase? I just want to make sure that's not there, because it says one-time spot purchase, and I've seen one-time spot purchases become multi-million-dollar contracts. So let's keep an eye on that one if we might. All right? Thank you.
Okay, so did you want to go ahead and do vote on 6 and 8?
And do we have any other, on the consent agenda, any other?
Well, we do have cards, 2 cards for number 10.
I actually want to move number 10 to the discussion.
Oh, okay, so then what's left on the consent is just 6 and 8.
Okay, is there a motion to approve 6 and 8?
So moved.
Second.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. So we're now up to
Item number 10,
10. Yes, item number. Who's going to present item number 10? Who can present that item?
and then I do have 2 speaker cards.
Kelly Bernard, Director of Economic Development. Good afternoon, Commissioners. What you have before you is a evaluation of one of the current workforce development programs that the department is implementing. That is the Job Opportunities Training Program. This program was approved by the board back in 2006. It's been operational since about 2008. It requires that all professional service contractors, all professional service contracts of $500,000 or more, use 3% of that to do workforce development or job training. Initially, when this program was thought of, it was assumed that the contractors would incur the cost of this program, meaning that they would just take it off of their cost. What we're seeing is those costs are essentially passed through to the department. We have about 50 contracts that are eligible, or that the JO2P program applies to. It has resulted in approximately 55 trainees being trained for the course of their the contracts and 3 full-time. So after the contracts have been, the work has been completed, 3 of the 55 have been hired full-time by by the contractor. I think initially the thought was that we would see a greater number of jobs being created by this program in the private sector. That has not occurred. In looking throughout the city, the rest of the city departments are implementing a workforce program using the First Source hiring program. It was adopted by the city back in 2007 for all of the city departments. The proprietary departments were not required to do this, but all have adopted it as First Source hiring, the Port, LAWA. We are the only ones who are doing a separate program with JLTP. So at this time, we were coming to the board, having been in operation for about a year, to say we've been trying it. There's some challenges to implementing JLTP, namely that most of the professional service contracts are as needed or as needed or on call, so we don't know going into the contract if they're going to actually, if JLTP is going to be triggered. Because of the task, as you may realize or understand, is that as the task bases or the tasks are ordered, then the contracts, then the JLTP number is triggered, but it's not triggered until they reach that 500,000. So there's really no way of determining if JLTP is going to be required. So between the on-call and the task and the compliance issues that we are experiencing, the difficulty in compliance, staff has recommended that we kind of halt the current JLTP, look to model the rest of what we're doing after what the rest of the city is doing, and perhaps transition to First Source hiring after we do a fuller evaluation of First Source hiring and the cost and associated with that compared to the cost associated with JLTP and the outcomes, if it's going to result in a greater number of actual job placement, not just training.
Thank you. Why don't you stay there? Can we have the public comment
Yes.
before we ask our questions?
Okay. The first public speaker for item number 10 is Candido Morez.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be my last item I'll speak on. I want to thank these young kids from North Hollywood for being here today. I asked them what would they like to do after we leave here, and believe it or not, you know where they want to go? Chuck E. Cheese. So, you know, the kids are kids. And I want to thank you guys for being here. But again, jobs, they're about the jobs. And I've been here a long time, and I hear over and over again that we're going to have jobs. I'm still concerned about where those jobs are going to. And as I showed you in the past, I brought a map here, and I was able to look at the 2,000 hirings that have been done in the last 3 years. I really couldn't find any great numbers in the city of Los Angeles. A lot of the jobs are going outside of our area. So I hope that this commission and Mr. Nichols, that you'll really make an effort to hire people within our city boundaries. And we've got a lot of great people, a lot of great skilled people, and a lot of young people that are eager to work for this department. This is the greatest public utility in the nation. And now with Mr. Nichols, I think we're even going to get better. And Mr. Nichols, I promise you I won't do this all the time to praise you, because I don't want them to think we're friends. I just want to admire those who are heroes and who have guts to stand the line. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from
One more speaker card.
Oh, excuse me. Mr. Wilkinson, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Wilkinson.
Tony Wilkinson, Neighborhood Council Department MOU Committee. I have no concern with the transition or proposed transition from what appears to maybe not be an optimal use of department funds and training in terms of actual results, and also a program that's very difficult to manage. One of my concerns, however, is to suspend your March 2006 order until the department comes back with a proposal for a replacement. One of the things is that according to the posting for the document, the 2006 order also supports the utility pre-craft training program. And without that order, there wouldn't be, as I read it, any authorization for the utility pre-craft training, which, as I understand, has been a very successful program in partnership with our labor partners to pre-craft determine who is going to be most successfully employed by the department in a craft position later on. So I'd hate to see that program hurt by this transition. Thank you.
Question? It is.
So, Ms. Bernard, could you answer Mr. Wilkinson's question?
That was no. Thank you for that. That's not the intention of this. The two programs were a couple. My understanding that they were coupled together in this, but I was actually just meeting with HR, and they were saying the two programs are not coupled. So that is it was completely unintended consequence. So we would ask that it would be to just stop JL2P and not to rescind the entire motion if that's indeed the case. But I would confer with.
So we may need, once we vote on this, we may need an amendment. Okay. Okay. Questions for Kelly?
Yeah, I have a couple. Actually, that was one of my questions about the pre-craft trainee program. It sounds like the JOTP program is not working out too well. It's not achieving the kinds of goals or expectations that we once had. But if I'm reading this correctly, you're going to suspend this program before you have its replacement figured out. And I'm just wondering, is that going to affect anyone currently in the program, or are we just suspending it on all new contracts?
It's just suspending on all new contracts current, and that's part of the reason why we want to suspend it, because eventually, once we transition to a new program, we will be doing compliance on two separate types of workforce development programs, meaning there will be some contracts that are out on the street now or in play now that are required to have the JOTP requirement, and those will continue, and we will have to monitor those and make sure that they remain in compliance. And all new contracts going forward would be under the new program. So in order to kind of mitigate or minimize the number of contracts under the various programs, we're asking to suspend the current one, and we would come back within 60 days with a fully fleshed out replacement.
Just to clarify then, there are no professional services contracts with direct labor costs in more than $500,000 that would be that are currently being bid out that would be affected if we suspend the program at this time? Nothing in the pipeline, in other words?
I'm not aware, but if those are all new ones, we could post-date it so that first source hiring or whatever, the next one would be contingent upon a certain date. It would start on a certain date. So there wouldn't be a gap. There's no intention to have a gap where there's some that are under JL2P, some that are under the new first source hiring, and this kind of no man's land of those that had no requirements going forward.
All right.
Commissioner Moon? Oh, you were just reaching for your Commissioner Parford?
Quick question. Of the contracts that are currently in the pipeline, to do this transition to first source hiring program, is it going to delay any much needed contracts that we're facing? I mean, this board is on a regular basis approached with these last minute requests of urgent need for us to approve contracts, and I'm wondering if this transition is an impediment for us to move ahead and meet our timelines and goals.
We have spoke with supply chain and others to see, kind of which ones, and my staff is here who does the pre-bid, and we're not aware of contracts that are going to kind of, like I said, be in this no man's land of not being required to do either JL2P or the first source hiring, which is why we're stipulated that we would come back as quickly as possible, and for the department that's about 60 days with this new fleshed out program.
Commissioner, I'd like to put a clarifying point out here, and I want to make sure that staff and we are all not talking past each other on this, because it's an important clarifying point. This issue was brought up to me by staff on the concerns about the fact that we were adding to our costs and getting precious little for it, and as a result didn't feel it was meeting the objectives of the program, but yet it was, in our view, could be seen as unduly burdening our customers with the cost because they're the ones that have to pay for those costs. The notion was that we'd had, certainly as Ms. Bernard indicated, particularly Los Angeles World Airports has used this new first source practice quite successfully and are pleased with it, so we're interested in emulating it. We were at the point of looking at saying go ahead and recommending going forward on it, but we really didn't have sufficient information to recommend to the board at this juncture exactly what are the costs associated with that program, and didn't want to get in a situation where we were asking you to make an action on replacing JOTP with the First Source opportunity without having full information with respect to what are those administrative costs, what are the the costs overall, and to get better information on it. We believe it's better. We're hearing good things about it. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, I think the notion here is that any RFP that's gone out with respect to the requirement there would be honored, tracked, compliance would be tested associated with that. During the pendency of whatever period of time it takes us to get back to you rapidly, and I'm hopeful we'll get back to you in the very next meeting. I'm hopeful, so hopefully within a couple weeks. But if it took longer than that, we may have a circumstance where a new request for proposals went out, and obviously if it's over $500,000, it would be we anticipate it would be competitively bid, or it would be a new requirement irrespective. That we would not require JOTP on that because we don't believe that we're getting, to be blunt, bang for the buck on that in terms of what we're trying to get as its overall job training and job creation opportunities. So there could be something, a contract that comes through, one or two potentially, that had no specific requirement associated with that until such time that we got the new one done. We want to get the new one done quickly, and we're hopeful that we can just simply emulate what the other proprietary organizations are doing on that. So that's my understanding of the circumstance. If I'm misreading, Kelly, what we've discussed, please clarify.
No, that's what we discussed, that JLTP would not be required, but my thought was we could, if we implemented First Source hiring, we could have them have to comply with First Source hiring.
Right.
I appreciate the clarity, but it's more important that we not err in perpetuity. So if it's not working and we happen to have a contract that comes along, so be it. We should suspend the program. Because my questions relate to, when do we start this program?
When did we start JLTP?
Yes.
It was approved in 2006,
Yeah.
and my understanding that it was implemented in late 2008.
And do you have, and this is somewhat rhetorical, but I'd like to know how much money we've spent on this program. And because it's got to be huge amounts of money, and for 3 jobs, the cost per job, we could have just given people money. This is precisely, we could have written checks to people or given them rebates on their bills. This is precise, and I appreciate you looking into this, and Ron in particular is a part of what we're trying to do as a department now, to be mindful of ratepayers' money, not to let these kind of programs go on. So I say that to say if there's a bit of a gap, that's okay. It's more important that we fix this so we don't continue to misuse, in my opinion, ratepayer money.
There are there are about 50 contracts that have dates between 2007 and 2015 that are out on the streets or that will be released at a value of approximately $265 million. So if you take 3% of of those contracts, that would have to spend 3% of their cost on workforce development. That amounts to about,
that's $6 or $7 million.
that's about $8 million. Now that's
for
not
3 jobs.
We're not saying that all of that is being spent, but at the high end, it would be $7 million for the 3 full-time jobs and 55 trainees that we had. So we are trying to get a better estimate of these numbers so that we're as accurate as possible. The LAWA, which is the proprietary department, or one of the most successful departments who are doing the compliance and a more thorough job of compliance with First Source hiring, spends about $300,000 annually for its program. So that's one indication. We just wanted to, as the general manager mentioned, we want to make sure that the numbers are as accurate as possible before we come back with a recommendation. But
Okay, well, again, we appreciate you looking into this. It's something we've got to fix, and let's get it right. Okay. Any other questions from the board? I think I'd like to entertain a motion that we suspend the program, but making it clear that the suspension shall not apply to the utility pre-craft program. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved. Second.
Any objections? All in favor? Approved. No objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. item number 11. Who's going to present that? Is that Mr. Anselmo? Mr. Collins, excuse me. I think we can start by, is there anything different than when you presented this last time?
Yes, sir. We did add some additional information with the hopes that it would further clarify the effort that was really taken by the bidders in this particular case. One of the things that we did here is that we listed the number of subcontractors that were outreached by each one of the vendors, and also whether they were maybe weebies or OBEs, and if they were not selected, why. And just in summary,
what's OBE again?
Other business enterprises. So anything that's not MeBe or Weebie falls under OBE.
Other.
Yeah. So, so what we did here is, for example, with Bob Wandries, which is one of the awardees for this contract, it shows that there were 7 subcontractors that they had outreach to. Out of those, 4 were MBEs, 2 were WBEs, and 1 was an OBE. But what it goes on to say also is that there were 2 MBEs that did not submit a bid. In other words, they were outreach. They talked to them. They decided not to submit a bid or a quote, I should say. 1 MBE that their bid was too high. And then 1 OBE where their bids were too high. So for the firms that were awarded the subcontracting opportunities, their quotes were approximately, for Bob Wandries, 33% lower than the quote they received for the other subcontractors that were basically going for the same work. And in the case of Reynolds Buick, I think it was a smaller difference. It was only 6%. So in other words, the folks that got subcontracting dollars, their cost was approximately 6% lower than the other subs that also put in quotes with, in this case, with Reynolds. So the idea was to show that they were outreaching, they provided the opportunity, but when it came down to select, they selected the ones that provided the best cost. These are, after all, low bid, competitive items. So as the prime, you want to make sure you do everything possible to get the award. So the tendency is to go with whoever provides you the best price. There is one thing I want to clarify in here. There is one mistake, and that was made by my organization, and for that I apologize. In the write-up, it states that the possible subcontracting as a result of outreach was 38.97%, and then for Reynolds it says 37.75. Those are actual mistakes there. That shouldn't have been there. The number should have actually been 19.22 for Bob Wandries and 18.33. Those mistakes don't have any material effect on who's being awarded, the level of participation. It was simply a clerical mistake that was made, but I felt that I need to bring that to your attention because that's a mistake on the board letter, and only on the board letter.
Okay. Want to add anything to this discussion?
Gary Wong, Director of Operations Support Services. The proposed purchase is for pickup trucks. And just to provide some context as to why you're seeing the quantities that you're seeing, what we try to do is to replace 10% of the fleet annually. If you go back to the approximately 04, 05 to about 07, 08 time frame, 10% comes out to about $35 million. During that time frame, we underspent by about $45 million. So in other words, we were about a year and a half behind the schedule. So when you look at what's being proposed to you today, the 812 units, and these are the required units, not the additional optional units. Of the 812, approximately 450 of those units are 10 years or older. And the benefits that accrue to the department are that we're going to reduce our parts inventory, we're going to replace antiquated or units that the repairs to the unit are more than the value of the unit. We're going to reduce the emissions associated with these units. And for pickup trucks, the gas mileage, our estimate is that we're going to get 25% improved mileage on the new units, proposed units.
Anything else from the presenters? Questions from the floor?
I have one. I have a follow-up question. The last time we discussed this item, I requested information about our history with Reynolds Buick and Bob Wandries. Do you have that information available now? I'm just curious as to how long we've contracted with these two firms in that it doesn't seem as if we've gotten a lot of competitive bids on this substantial financial item. So I'm just curious about that.
We pulled some information regarding Wandries.
I can provide some information regarding the limited competition. One of the things that staff did, and actually I think it was Gary's staff, they went ahead and called. We expected around 11 bids or so. We only got 3 bids in this particular contract from the 2 that are being awarded plus one other one. And some of the comments that came back from the other bidders that we expected to see bids from were the following. One of the companies, for example, said that they didn't bid because at the last minute their sub backed out and they were not able to put a bid together. A couple of them stated that, and once I say a couple, 3 of them, that they ran out of time to put a bid together. We also had a company that basically said because of personal reasons they did not bid. So one of the things we try to do, especially when we expect to see multiple bids or many bids, we have very few, we do contact them and ask them. So for each one of the companies we expected to bid, we called them, and there was various reasons why they did not bid.
Okay, with all due respect,
Yeah.
I'd like you to answer my question. How long have we had contracts with Bob Wandries Motors and Reynolds Buick? I asked that of you at the last board meeting.
Yeah, that part of the question I
because
don't
I'll
know.
tell you, in the business world that I work in, sometimes there are competitive bids, and when people feel like there's a favorite and that there isn't a fair chance, they're not going to bid. They're not going to waste their time. So I want to make sure that that's not happening here.
Okay. So I do not have an answer to that particular question. I was answering the second part of what I thought your question was. So
My question at the last board meeting was to give me the history of how long we've contracted with these 2 entities.
Okay.
So I do have a history for Wandries.
Okay.
And
Is this just one, or is there more?
That was the only one that we heard.
I just need, I don't need paperwork. I just want an answer.
okay. So when you go back to 2000, there was an award to Wandries Ford for service trucks, utility light. In 2001, there were compact van trucks. In 2002, and these are with Wandries Fords, stake bed trucks, 2-axle. In 2003, heavy utility trucks. 2004, 2-axle dump trucks. And in 2004, also pickup trucks with Wandries Ford. In 2007, hybrid sedans with Wandries Toyota. 2010, service utility trucks, light service utility trucks, and rough terrain vehicles. And then in 2011, on a small purchase, spot purchase, electric sedans for 3 units.
Well, I'm just going to share my personal opinion as a commissioner. I personally bypass a lot of RFPs that I don't think are legit and that I don't think are fair. And the fact that you've recontracted them, renewed, done year after year business with them, and I anticipate, I mean, this is Los Angeles, this is the hub of the auto industry. I would just find it very peculiar that there aren't more people bidding. And I think that there should be, some kind of research conducted as to why people aren't bidding and whether or not they feel that they really can legitimately compete with the relationship that exists with Bound, Wandries, and Reynolds Buick.
Commissioner, if I may speak, Pete Saturco with Fleet Services. One of the reasons you're seeing a lot of the Ford purchases in the earlier 2000 mark is there currently was a contract. It was a strategic partnership with Ford, and that was a 5-year implementation with the previous management over this group. What that did is gave us extremely low purchase power in that window with Ford. And so whenever we went out for a spec for particular pieces of equipment, it was Ford based, so all the Ford agencies bid on those specs. You didn't see GM or Dodge or anybody else. So that's why you saw quite a few, not necessarily with Wandries, there were other Ford agencies too that were awarded those contracts. So I think that probably helps explain some of why in that 5-year window you saw quite a few with Wanderers. We no longer are in a strategic partnership, and so our bids now are going out to all the manufacturers. Matter of fact, on this pickup truck spec, we actually had it split into 3 groupings to try and include all 3 manufacturers. Chrysler at the time did not have a pickup truck that would qualify both in the ULEV 2, which is a low emission motor, and at the weight capacity. They had since come up with a vehicle, wanted to participate. The department then split it into 3 groupings so we could get all 3 major manufacturers, and Chrysler never even put a bid in. And that was after they approached us and asked us to break it up so they could. So again, I know that doesn't answer your question 100%, but that's one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of those from Ford, is because it was that strategic partnership.
Well, I appreciate your feedback. My final words are, DWPLA is the largest municipality in the nation. We employ over 9,000 people. This is the hub of the auto industry, and I just do not feel comfortable with the fact that we keep using the same auto group year after year after year. It just doesn't feel right to me personally. I'm not going to speak for the board, but I'm just going to say I appreciate your comments. But when I look at the analytical evidence of where we are, the city that we are, the number of people that we employ, this huge budget item, something just seems wrong to me.
Well,
So
I hear what you're saying, and I know, as Anselmo stated, we try to get this out not just through the traditional process of bidding, but we contact a lot of the dealers personally. And most of them say, yes, great, we'll take a look, and that's the last we hear from them. So, I mean, we can lead the horse to water, but I can't make it drink. So,
and I appreciate that comment. I don't want to be repetitive,
No, I
but
understand.
being in the business world, I'm in brokerage, there are certain entities that do relationship year after year with the same group, regardless of their price, da-da-da, and it's like, there comes a point where you just don't even want to waste your time bidding on something when you know it's going to go to A, Y, and Z agency. So I just want to make sure that's not going on here. That's all.
Yeah, okay. And if I can just give you one little bit of information that also happened on a different spec. We have another company that deals in boom trucks, okay? These are very specialized, particular pieces of equipment. Another aspect of their business is building utility trucks. They're starting to try to get back into, because obviously the economy is as it is, not that many boom trucks are being built. So their subdivision, and here's a company that, again, does a lot of business with us, but there's only 2 companies really that build that particular kind of specialty truck. Even though they've had great history with us, they did not get the award on the bid because they didn't participate correctly. Even though they're a long-term vendor, they even came to us and said, we've sold you a lot of vehicles, we know your process, what happened? And we showed them clearly where they made the mistake. So it does happen.
I can understand when errors eliminate certain respondents from the RFP selection, but when you're telling me that you're asking us to approve a $21 million budget item and you received 1 or 2 responses, it does not bring a lot of peace of mind to me personally as a commissioner. That's all.
Commissioner Moss?
I want to thank Mr. Wong for giving the analysis as to what the need is for the trucks, because I was also concerned by the size of the contract, and it sounds like, and I just want to clarify so I understand the process going on, is that your goal is to replace 10% of your fleet on an ongoing basis?
On an annual basis.
And so that 10% is going to equate to about $30 million every year?
$35 million.
35. So as a commission, we're going to expect annual requests for contract approvals at that rate, year in, year out?
Assuming that the budget is approved, yes.
Yeah, I think we need to rethink the policy. I think it's good that you're refreshing your fleet, and I appreciate the fact that you have a lot of older trucks in the fleet that are ready to be replaced. But I don't think in this time we can go on automatic renewals like that. I think we have to be very lean and mean and just replace those number of vehicles that are absolutely dying on the road. And otherwise, I think right now we have to be very, very mindful of our expenditures. And my concern is maybe more formal, but the package itself isn't demonstrating for me the actual need that the contract needs to be this large at this time. So I was wondering, one final question, if we put this off a little bit, what is the impact going to be out in the field in terms of safety and efficiency?
If we put this contract
and reread it to address some of the concerns of Commissioner Noonan.
If we put this contract off, we will miss purchasing units out of the current model year, so that we would have to put it out again, and then we will be looking at the next model year, and that's probably another, we're probably looking at September, October, November, as an interim measure for those units that where it's maybe no longer feasible to repair them or they get wrecked, and then we'd probably be looking at rental units.
Yeah, Commissioner, I just want to comment from an operational perspective, and I'll let Aaron chime in on the power side. You know, we went through this thing and, at the direction of the general manager, scrubbed the request pretty thoroughly, and not pretty thoroughly, very thoroughly. And we eliminated, I think we talked a little bit about this last time, we eliminated the maybe we might need something. We scratched all those out. A tremendous number of these right now. The problem with the let it go until it dies on the road is then we end up renting something. And we've had rentals now for multiple years, and we're running into situations where you're investing more in a rental. You would have been much better off buying something, which is part of the reason this is as large as it is. Part of it's because we haven't done it in a couple of years now, so it's piled up. I agree with you. An automatic 10%, that is not the kind of mode that we're in now. We're really looking at things. But for this particular truck, these are the trucks, this is our bread and butter work that my water utility folks are using all the time, and we've got some really bad pieces of equipment out there, and I'm spending a fortune in rentals. I would really encourage you to not lose the opportunity to buy this, because my understanding is if we do not take advantage of this model year's purchases, we'll probably have to roll this thing over. It'll be almost a year before we can get another contract in place, and I think that will actually end up costing our ratepayers more.
So thank you. I appreciate that. Let me just ask one question. On our budget that's been approved for this year, is there a line item for this expenditure?
Yes, this is included in our budget.
So it's already been called out?
Yes.
It's part of the capital budget.
Yep.
Okay.
From operational perspective, Commissioner, it's the same thing on the power side. I have trucks that are very high mileage, you know, they're breaking down, and we do have a lot of expenses on the rentals that we want to replace them with.
Commissioner, if I could add one more thing in
Sure.
there, too. In the past, traditionally, what has happened is a lot of these trucks that are being replaced are half-ton trucks. Now, I don't know how real familiar you are with vehicles, but a half-ton truck, for the most part, is a very light-duty vehicle, okay? And because these half-ton trucks are used in our environment where they're loaded basically beyond the capacity, taken off-road, those trucks are worn way beyond their capacity, much quicker than the 4 or 8 year life cycle. So what we've done traditionally, or not traditionally, what we've done now with all of our specs is we've standardized those purchases. It does two things. It looks at what we've done in the past of the mistakes we've made. We've moved all these are minimum of 3/4 ton trucks, i.e. a work truck or 1-ton truck, depending on their towing or loading capacity. And two, they're being bought as standard pickups. We're not adding all the bells and whistles like we used to do in the past. And that, I know that doesn't address the...
Will there be cup holders?
I'm sorry?
Will there be cup holders?
Only if they go standard.
No, because we don't want to deny the workers the cup holders.
Yeah, so anyways, moving on here. The cost, of course, up front is a little bit more because of the heavier truck, but the long-term is savings, or the maintenance costs are obviously much less. These trucks now do have the ULEV 2 required motors that only was available in a half-ton truck. So, I mean, we're saving all the way around. And one other thing that wasn't mentioned, if we do wait for the next year model, we're going to pay more for them.
Right. Let me just respond this way. Thank you for all of your comments. I mean, it's educational. I think that the information that you're giving to us in the hearing really should be part of your proposal. for us to approve. We need to have these facts. These are the facts that justify the request. And in particular, let's hash this out on the next budget. I would like to see very much that for these large capital purchases that we know that we're going to get faced with in the year, let's talk about them as line items during the approval of the budget. Then when they come up and you're requisitioning it, then you can refer it back to the budget approval, so we don't have to go through this dance of, hey, did we really budget for this? Apparently we did.
We did.
Oh, yeah.
Time has come. There's a need. So I think on this case, I'm likely to go ahead with it. But I am going to hold to a new kind of requirement that these requisitions be really justified in the written materials that we receive, and that they're tied back into the budget so that we know that we've already discussed it.
Yeah, Commissioner, just a point on that. These items, since we're on a fiscal year budget, would have been approved in the prior year's budget as an estimate placeholder. Obviously it gets refined as you go through the process, and as Mr. McDaniel indicated, this item was on an earlier earlier board thing. We pulled it. I pulled it before you ever saw it. We went through the scrubbing process. We reduced the number to get down to where we believe we're making this appropriate balance between the dead and wounded, if you will, and the machines that can stay on the road a bit longer, and to avoid those rental costs. So I think the staff here has made a good balance on this particular instance, and you're absolutely right in terms of we're not in a mode of an automatic take a look at everything, because this is the way we've done business before, and I believe procurement's got their arms around that issue, and I'll certainly make sure as we go forward in our next year that we're there. And additionally, with regard to the upcoming budget, that matter will be, you'll see our budget that we'll be going through for this next coming fiscal year in the month of May.
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Moss?
No.
Commissioner Parker?
I wish to approve this this purchase. I think that both of the systems have done the appropriate triage, and it seems like these are very necessary purchases. But Mr. Soturco, you may wish to conduct a survey of other vendors so that we can get a real lay of the land, and we can understand why there isn't participation. And if there is the perception that there's a favored relationship, I think we have to do our utmost to try to disabuse people of that.
Absolutely. I personally would love to see 50 bids come in on these. And to be honest with you, like I said earlier, that's why we broke it into 3 groups, so we could get additional, not just vendors, but different manufacturers. But I agree.
So would you perform that survey?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Parker?
No, thank you.
I want to pick up on what Commissioner Moss was raising. So, Jim or Aaron, the concern, of course, is that it may cost more money to rent, to lease vehicles, right? So, what do you think, if we don't do this, what do you think we'll spend on rental vehicles?
I don't have the numbers for the particular
Even order of magnitude. I'm just trying to get a.
Well, Jim,
that makes a difference in terms, at least the way I vote on this. If this is a $2 million problem versus $21 million,
those vehicles traditionally would run you $750 to $900 per month for rent. And that's if you're looking at 12 months. Now, at the end of that rental period, we are reliable for all damages when the pickup trucks are turned back in. And I can tell you that these trucks are put through severe duty. So there are damages. There's, so we get.
So what? Estimate the cost on that?
Well, if we have 800 pickup trucks at $1,000, let's just say $800 a month.
Well, that assumes all of them fall in that situation, though.
I can tell you that the number that we're proposing in here doesn't address 100% of the vehicles in our fleet that really should be replaced.
I can't do anything about that because that's not before us.
Yes, sir.
Right? But of the 800 you're talking about replacing, how many of those we think will break down to the point where we have to rent a replacement vehicle? It's got to be some subset of that, right?
Well, I'd have to go back through, sir, and take a look at the maintenance costs, the ones that have high maintenance, the high mileage. I can tell you right now that the average mileage on the ones we're
It's
targeting to replace...
112,000 miles.
That's correct.
Right, I read the stuff.
So I can't answer the question without going back and doing some more research on the maintenance.
But isn't that the kind of analysis we need to do here to really understand? Because one cost we know, it's potentially $21 million. There's another cost that right now is an unknown from where I sit, right? And I think we can do that kind of analysis. And if you tell me it's a couple of $1 million, I might say, I'm willing to pay that couple. That might be a good maneuver to make in a tough cost environment, right? Because I'm avoiding, that $21 million cost that we've got to get. It's got to come from someplace. So I'm not sure I have enough enough quantitative information to make a really informed decision. It kind of goes to what I think Commissioner Moss was saying. That I'm troubled with the financial calculation that's not here, right?
Well, we have looked. We did look at the lease option on these. And again, based on the upfront cost of the lease startup, the exceeding the mileage, which the leasing agency, and then again the cost, the damage cost on the return of the vehicle after the end lease, the calculations, and I don't have them in front of me, indicated that it would not be cost effective. Also, the maintenance, the vehicle would have to be taken out of service, delivered to a particular dealership to have the services done, where the Department of Water and Power has its own maintenance facilities. All that work is done during the off hours, as traditionally how most of our shops operate at night when the vehicle is out of service. Where with a lease, the vehicle is going to be out, could be out for a week, which means now I got to go rent a pickup for that period that it's out being serviced. So if you calculate all of those, the numbers really were much higher. And then again, that hidden cost at the end when you turn it back in. What is the damage cost going to be? I can tell you that we've actually had to pay some very serious damage costs on some construction equipment up at the dry lake, up at Keeler, because of those types of things. And we can't ask our gentlemen not to do their work, or ladies, but at the same time, we have to realize that that has to be calculated. Now, I can tell you that on the equipment with the exceedingly high mileage, our maintenance cost right now is exceeding $5,000 to $7,000 per year on those vehicles. Then that doesn't take into consideration the excessive amount of fuel they're using with the old technology engines. Some of these are 1986 trucks.
So one of the metric that we look at, we take the inventory, we measure by industry standards the labor hours necessary to maintain that inventory. And we are currently at about 158, the FTE equivalent of 158 for our equipment inventory. And from a staffing standpoint, we're at 153. So we're trying to manage it so that we don't have too much overtime, but we don't hire people and then knowing that as new units come in, the maintenance requirements go below our staffing. And that's measured each month.
My sense is that you guys probably have the answer to my question, but I don't. It wasn't in the material.
Yeah.
So my inclination is to say to you, I still need a little bit more quantification on the need for this. I think you have the information. My suggestion is you go back. As soon as you have that kind of information, you bring it back to us. But if there's a motion to approve, then someone should make that.
Well, I would like to make the motion to approve item 11.
Is there a second? Hearing none, I think the item dies for lack of a second. But I think I want to be clear. What we're trying to do here is just make sure that we're doing everything we can to save ratepayer. And I know you're trying to do the same thing too. But you've got to give us enough information, particularly qualitative information, right, for us to come to that determination.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this to the next meeting and to ask staff to get us that information that you're asking for.
I don't think we need a motion for that. Just as bring it back whenever they're ready. Yeah, and sooner. I know you're rather than later. It's a good idea. So, okay, I think the matter's put off and bring it back. Okay, thank you. We appreciate your effort on it, though. Oh, I guess you stay there for item 12.
So we didn't move. Yes, sir. This particular one is the one where there was no good faith effort requirement, so we did not put any information about that. But what we did try to do is expand a little bit on the fact that some of the work that is service-related is all being done by the factory personnel. So there was not an opportunity there to subcontract that out. And when you look at the cost breakdown, and you do a quick calculation, the service portion of this contract is 2.2% only. And that's really being done, once again, by the factory personnel. As I discussed before, this is one of those where we did not see the opportunity for subcontracting, and therefore there was the good faith effort requirement was not put into this particular one. And this one, by the way, we did have 8 bidders. So we had 8 bids on this one, a lot more than we did for the previous item we just discussed.
Mr. Wong?
So going to the 92 units, of the 92, the board letter mentions that some of these are leased, and then some of these are department-owned. For the ones that are leased, we are paying on average about $945 a month. For the department-owned units, I believe there's a count of, I'd say it's about 30 units. Of the 30, 19 are 1997 and older. So we have, again, some of the same, I think, drivers in terms of efficiencies, reducing fuel consumption. In this specific case, the estimated fuel consumption will be twice as good with these proposed units as the existing units. Same argument with emissions.
Okay. Sir, want to add something to it?
No, sir.
No, okay.
So when we're factoring the costs of replacing the vehicles, when you come back to us next time with that report, can you please do an analysis on fuel consumption and what cost may be saved by having greater efficiencies in that area as well?
We can do that definitely on the lighter duty equipment, but the heavier equipment does not fall under the CAFE rules, the 8,500 and above. So, but I can give you the emission reductions on those.
On the pickups, but not on the...
That's correct.
Yes.
Because the 3/4 ton and higher does not fall under the CAFE requirements.
However, but there still may be, are there any efficiencies in recent years in the vehicles?
Oh, yes,
not?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
We've got
then there would be cost savings by the replacement.
Right, and we will give you the lower numbers.
Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you. I just have one comment. You state that there were 8 responses to this bid.
Or 8 bids, yes.
Yet, what I found interesting is out of the 8 responses, you want to award it to Bob Wondries, and the only other entity that's mentioned in this approval memo is Reynolds. Reynolds failed to qualify because they forgot this.
Correct.
Mind you, none of the other 6 entities are mentioned, why they were dismissed, why they weren't chosen. And I'm sorry, but I just can't help to wonder if there's favoritism here. I mean, you have 8 bids. Why does it come back again and again and again to Bob Wondries and Reynolds? Why was Reynolds mentioned, why they were eliminated, and the other entities that weren't proposed, why aren't you talking about why they were dismissed? It just makes me wonder.
Yeah, and the answer to that is because the reason why Reynolds was mentioned is because they were in fact the lowest bidder. And because in what we call awarding away the contract from them because their bid was incomplete. So we feel necessary to inform the board that who we're awarding to wasn't necessarily the lowest bidder, but it was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which in this case happens to be Bob Wondries. So typically we don't mention everybody else that bidded, but we mention if somebody who had a lower bid, numerical bid, actually is not getting the contract. We also inform the particular bidder so that they know that we are awarding the contract to somebody else despite the fact that they actually have lower numbers. That is the reason why. So,
and you know what I'll say, just on a side note, I think it's ironic that Reynolds, who's done so much business with DWP, failed to dot their I's and cross their T's. Interesting. And that Bob Wondries was the second group up. So I do appreciate Commissioner Parfrey's request to have some due diligence done as to why we're not getting a greater selection of people bidding on this work.
Commissioner Moss or Commissioner Barkley? You know, when I read the material, both items 11 and 12, in number 11, we said we applied the GFE because there was minimal customization, right? I think that was the quote.
No, okay.
There was some.
There was customization in 11, correct.
But I thought it said it was pretty minimal. Is that not what, did I misread that?
I don't recall it saying minimal,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
But there was customization, yes.
All right. And then on item 12, there was minimal customization. That's what we said, right?
I don't believe there's customization in item 12, sir.
Said no good faith effort required since there are minimal customizations in item 12. No? That's what I read.
With little to no custom modifications required.
Okay, so little.
So,
So there's
yeah.
little in this one, but there was more in item 11?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me what that means. What was the customization in one versus the customization in the
I
other?
will defer that to our fleet services to explain that there, sir.
Okay, on spec 11 with the pickup trucks,
Okay.
you're talking about snow plows, you're talking about heavy-duty light bars, you're talking about towing packages, winches, you're talking about what they call basically tool racks, crossbed toolboxes, insert bed liners, and then some electrical work internally in the cab to operate both that and a backup alarm.
Okay.
On the item number 12, those are in essence what you and I would consider a SUV.
Okay.
We call them rough terrain here because they're four-wheel drive. Security drives them off-road. Those basically are bought off the showroom floor or ordered, as very standard pieces of equipment without all the additional options.
Okay.
So that gives the vendor the opportunity at that point to send that out, to be contracted out. That's where they get their GFE temps, because the labor hours actually for them are cheaper to send it out than to do it in-house.
Okay. Other questions from the group? Is there a motion to approve?
There is.
Second? Is there a second? Going once? Going twice? Now, this one, we need to give you guys better direction, okay? From Commissioner Noonan and Commissioner Moss, we need to give direction as to what we need to see here to approve this item. So,
Well, once again, I would like to really see an analysis of how many of these vehicles absolutely have to be replaced at this time. And I'd like to fold that into some sort of idea of what the overall program is going to be on a going forward basis. Because I don't want to be hit with large capital contract requests for approval, from time to time again. I like to know where we're going with this. It's obviously an important item, and it needs some real thought.
Okay.
Now, we'll put into the report everything from the life cycle, the actual age, the industry standard replacement, the actual recovery costs through auction. If we stay within that life cycle, we'll make sure you see all that. And
I find that very helpful.
And as the age of the vehicle increases, of course, your maintenance costs will increase.
so what's the latest we can approve this and still stay in this year's purchasing cycle?
Well, Mr. Sales, we may miss it. May 5th is the cutoff date for Ford, and May 20th is the cutoff date for General Motors.
Okay, well, then that brings up a bigger issue. It's not just directed at you guys. I have said repeatedly, this is the second time you brought this to us, but don't bring us contracts with a short fuse on it. We know these contracts are coming up. Bring it to us 3 months in advance, right? So it's unfortunate if it costs us more money, but we can't, without sufficient facts, approve this right now. And the fact that you missed the purchase year, in my opinion, that is the department's fault, not ours. Because we need the information to make an informed decision. So we'll send this back, get it to us as soon as you can, and we'll do our best to be responsive.
One point of clarification, sir. When we get these bids, there's a 90-day acceptance period for the bids. In this particular case, these bids open in late November, early December. So it's already been more than 90 days. More than likely, there's already been a request by DWP to these firms to hold the prices. So we're going to have to go back and do that again. You know,
Have to rebid it or ask them to hold the price?
to hold the price. So in other
Okay.
words, are you willing to honor the prices that you quoted to us in December?
I think
So that's part of also what needs to be done. I just wanted to make sure that was
Thank you. I
part
think
of
that's
it.
a reasonable approach. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much. Item 13, who's going to present that matter? And I think we have, no speaker card. Let me ask the group, are there questions on item 13? I think we've all read the material. We may save you a presentation here. Commissioner Moss or Commissioner Noonan, or this one's, in my opinion, fairly straightforward. When Commissioner Parkby finishes whispering, we'll see if we can. John, do you have any questions on item 13?
No.
No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Item 14, same group, same question. Any questions on item 14?
Nope. None.
Is there a motion?
There is.
Second?
Second.
Any objection? Motion
No.
passed. Oh, sorry. No. Motion passes. Item 15.
I do have a speaker card on item 15.
Why don't we have the speaker come forward?
Okay, the speaker is Vincent Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Vince Foley. I represent the DWP Retired Employees Association. I'm speaking here today on behalf of 10,000 plus retirees and surviving spouses. And normally what I would do is stand before you to urge you to approve the item in front of you. Unfortunately, today I cannot do that. Specifically to item or sub-item 1, the United Healthcare Agreement, I cannot urge you to approve that simply because for the first time in 40 years, our association has not been a party to this. We haven't seen it. We don't know what's in it. We don't know what benefits are there. We don't know what costs are there. The retirees will be calling us as soon as this information gets out. Nobody knows about it yet. Nobody. And our retirees are expected to make a decision based on this information within the next 19 days. Many of our retirees are in their 80s and 90s, and if you folks have parents maybe in your 80s and 90s, you know that they take a lot of hand-holding. We're the hand-holders. The department is not. And yet the department has seen fit to exclude the Retirees Association for the first time in 40 years from participating in a major change of benefits for our retirees. We would love to be able to tell our retirees when they start calling my home, and they will, in the hundreds as soon as this information is out, because every retiree has my home phone number. And I would love to be able to tell them, folks, this is a win-win situation for we as retirees and for the department. Folks, don't worry because your benefits are being protected. I can't. I can't tell them anything except we don't know squat, because the department has chosen not to include us again for the first time in 40 years. These retirees, aged, elderly, have a major decision to make by May 9th, and they haven't even heard about this yet. They haven't any information about it. They don't know anything that they are going to be required to change from Blue Shield to United Healthcare. United Healthcare, by the way, has one of the lowest customer services in the healthcare industry. And yet, we are going to expect our retirees to make that decision. I'm not here today to ask you not to approve this, because our retirees have to have health care. We appreciate the department, obviously, taking care of us and providing us health care. What we want to extend to management is that obviously and apparently there was a dedicated effort to keep this information away from the Retired Employees Association. I don't know why, but I want management to know we aren't the enemy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not retired, but I'm aging. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
So-
Great.
Thank you. I think we're back on the record. We're going to continue with item 15. You might start by responding, if you would, to the public speaker's comment.
Sure. Let me introduce myself first of all. I'm Shannon Pasquale, Director of Human Resources, and I have Gary Ward here with me from Mercer. I don't disagree with Mr. Foley and some of the concerns as he's expressed as it relates to communication, but I want to kind of give the board a little background information so they have an understanding of where we are today and why we've done what we've done. Okay.
So are you talking just item 1 or all 5 of the subparts within?
I'm talking about the communication as it relates to the consolidation that Mr. Foley was raising in terms of...
He was only speaking to item 1, as I recall, right? 15.1?
Correct.
Or is he talking
Correct.
all 5?
Correct. I think this is the major issue of concern because this is the area that we are looking at consolidating the Blue Shield into United Healthcare. And I appreciate the fact that, in prior years, there has been a lot more communication with not only the retirees, but also with the employee associations and organizations that have members that are represented by this department. Let me just speak to the issue regarding the consolidation and the communication part. Yes, we are proposing and recommending that the board, as part of the contracts to move forward for the next fiscal year, that they approve the consolidation of Blue Shield into United Healthcare. When we briefed the board a couple of weeks ago, and I know Commissioner Parfrey wasn't here, we provided some specific information about what the actual cost savings was going to be as a result of this consolidation. And the ultimate cost savings is $9.6 million, 8.4 of which goes directly to the department, 1.2 goes directly to the retirees in either reduced contributions or elimination monthly contributions altogether. Because this is the first time in several years that this department has come forward with a proposal also that's going to result in a PPO option being offered to people outside of the local 18 plans, it required a lot of discussion with management, specifically Mr. Nichols, because he came on in late January, and we don't have a lot of window in terms of our opportunity to get a lot of this stuff done. So while I appreciate the fact that there was not as much dialogue as has happened in prior years with the Retirees Association, the department was working very feverishly to get a lot of this information so that we could get it to the board to decide whether or not you were going to support this or not. Because ultimately, we could recommend until we're blue in the face, but if the board doesn't adopt the proposal and the recommendation, it doesn't go anywhere. And so we spent a lot of time going back and forth also with United Healthcare because of the cost savings that they were indicating that we were going to realize for the next fiscal year. I think we were all somewhat surprised at the dollar amount, and we wanted to make sure in our communication with them before we came forward to the board that the numbers were in fact accurate. And so that took some time going back and forth between Mercer and United Healthcare and Blue Shield. I appreciate the fact that as it relates to change to the health plans, that the retirees are going to have a lot of questions. I have parents myself who are in their 80s. I understand from my own personal perspective that this would be something difficult for them to digest. However, having said that, I want to make it clear that it wasn't an intentional miscommunication or lack of communication with the retirees. We simply had to have all the facts in line to come before you before we can communicate with anyone, because it's not just the retirees that are being impacted by this as well. There are a number of active employees, including our general manager, who is going to be impacted by this decision to consolidate United Healthcare into Blue Shield. And so we also had to reach out to those employee organizations as well, that we're going to have employees that would be impacted by this as well. But we couldn't do that until such time that you guys gave us the blessing to move forward with this. So that's my response to Mr. Foley's concerns about the communication.
Questions from the commissioners?
I simply have a comment. I realize with the multitude of issues that General Manager Nichols is facing, and I do, I've told him before, I think he's doing a fabulous job. I understand how it's really difficult to forecast things in advance, but I think when it comes to issues of health care, you truly, truly, truly need to plan ahead of time. I think that in this day of transparency where it's so key with the public, as well as, the employees, I do think, in all fairness, they should have a vetted response to give their feedback to the department on the direction that they'd like to see their healthcare go. And so on principle, I just, I can understand how in this singular situation that was bypassed, but that is not something that I condone long-term or every year. I think it's very important to get their buy-in. And it's also important to give our board enough notice, before getting employees' consensus, as President Sales said. It's really awful to be put in a position where you feel like you have to make a decision. And I think out of respect to, your fellow employees and colleagues, that you really, really need to get on the ball ahead of time, to get their opinion, to lead a direction that everyone can endorse.
And I don't disagree with that comment. I agree. I think normally our practice has been to have an open line of communication with everyone as it relates to things that we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
But understand, for us in particular, the timing was a very short window. Mm-hmm. And if we don't take advantage of this opportunity and we put this off for a year, we will not be able to realize those savings. Mm-hmm. And so I agree, and I can commit to you on a go-forward basis that we will have a lot more dialogue with all the impacted parties as it relates to any changes that may be coming forth in terms of healthcare. This was a big one. Again, we have not had a situation in quite some time where we were going to have a PPO option for people who were not enrolled in the IBW plan. So this is a pretty significant thing, but it came at a very short time. We didn't have the luxury of being able to have months of discussions with everyone before we got to you guys. And in fact, we got to you as quickly as we could based on our validating the information with United Healthcare.
However, I know quite a bit about the insurance world, and I know that these bids and these placings can take place prior to the day that you place them. So I just ask respectfully that in the future you start on this process a little bit earlier on to make it a consensus building event, something that everyone can support, whether or not the rates go up or down, that there's complete buy-in from the department. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ross? Excuse me.
Quick question. Assuming that we pass this today, and in light of the cost savings to the DWP, what measures are you going to take to help the retirees in this short window of time when they have to make certain elections to really be able to give them the support and the information that they're going to need to make some important choices?
Sure. We will have on the retirement website the newsletter and the options guide on tomorrow that will specifically spell out what the changes are going to be to the retirees' plans. We plan on having the options guide being mailed out to the retirees at some point in the not too distant future, because open enrollment does start next week. If by chance we have a situation whereby there are a number of retirees who need some additional time, what I talked to my health plan staff about today is possibly extending the open enrollment for them for an additional 4 days to give them an additional, so a total of 13 days in open enrollment to be able to ask any questions they may have. Certainly we can sit down with the Foleys and any other retirees who have concerns to start explaining to them what it is that's going to happen, what the net result is going to be, so forth and so on. And I can commit to you today that we will do that immediately so that as their phones start to ring off the hook, they will have information to be able to provide to these individuals once the information gets to them. But we are making every steps that we can to get the communication out to everyone, in addition to the active employees as well, so that everyone has a full understanding of what's going on and what they're going to be having to do as it relates to any changes.
Right, and included in the messaging is the fact that you're saving the retirees money as well.
Correct.
Other questions? Commissioner Farfrey?
Thank you, President Sales. Has there been an analysis that compares the medical service vendors that are provided by Blue Shield versus that of United Healthcare? So are many of these retirees as well as current employees going to have to shift physicians, primary care physicians?
No. The analysis that was done when we were doing all of the validating of information was specifically that, I'll give you some specific numbers, okay? there's 782 providers right now that are going to be moving from in-network to out-of-network, okay? But there's also 1,126 providers that are going to be moving from out-of-network to in-network, okay? 93 facilities currently will move from in-network to out-of-network, but 114 facilities will be moving from out-of-network to in-network. So in essence, we don't anticipate seeing any major changes to any of the retirees' health plan in terms of their provider or anything else for that matter.
But there will be there'll have to be some paperwork done nonetheless.
In terms of open enrollment?
Correct.
You want to talk about the difference between?
Well, basically it's set up to be a passive enrollment, that the people that are currently in Blue Shield will move over to United Healthcare unless they make an actual election to go into Kaiser or one of the other plans. So the actual function will be fairly, hopefully smooth.
And have we envisioned perhaps employing some social workers to help some of the employees and retirees in this transition?
Social workers in the sense of trying to get information to them?
Social workers in the sense of people calling them up and walking them through the plans, like Mr. Foley is anticipating doing.
We do have a health plan staff that is responsible for providing information both for the actives and the retirees during the open enrollment period. So they can contact them through telephone, they can send an email, they can come in person to the JFB on the A level during the open enrollment period, and they will be walked through the entire process from start to finish.
Thank you.
I think this is a situation where we should do as much as we possibly can to reach out to these retirees. I can't tell you what it is. I'm hoping you have adequate staff, because there may be a huge flow of information and requests coming in, and we need to have the staff under these circumstances in particular to respond to the questions of folks who may be shifting from one plan to the other.
We will do what's necessary in order to make sure that the process is seamless for them.
Okay. Other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16, same cast of characters.
I'm here for 16 as well.
Questions on item 16?
Yes, I have a question. I just want to clarify that I'm understanding this. Basically, what you're asking us to do today is to amend the existing contract to increase the amount by $150,000.
Correct.
In the same time frame.
Correct. We're not extending the term of the contract.
What I didn't quite understand is what is the reason for the additional money?
Okay, let me explain to you.
Passover.
Yeah, well, you overeat and then...
Traditionally, the Executive Physicals program has been one of those programs that we are obligated to provide per an agreement with what we have with MEA, and it's been underutilized. To be quite frank with you, we were caught off guard a little bit at the fact that we ran out of money, because traditionally we've never come up against this issue. So clearly there is a lot more interest in the department's management side to get these executive physicals done. And we had a situation where we had a number of individuals who were scheduled, some of which are scheduled for follow-up visits that we had to postpone at this point because we ran out of money. Now, I can tell you that we put some additional tracking devices in place so that we are not going to come up against this issue in the future. Again, we have never had a situation where we've had the contract run out of money before the contract actually expired. But what we are planning also on doing is the contract does expire at the beginning of September, but what we're hoping to do is have a new RFP to you by either the end of June or early part of July so that there are no concerns going forward in September. But what we're trying to do is ensure that we meet our legal obligations as it relates to our MOU agreement with MEA and have the service be able to be provided between now and the time we come back with a new contract.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a clarifying point on here, just in case it might have been missed in the background, that these examinations, physical examinations, are a part of the letter of agreement with the MEA union.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none. Item 16 is approved.
Okay.
Item 7, Barbara, I think there was a comment you wanted to make before we got started on item 17. I think we have a speaker card also,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, for item number 17, I just need to announce that we had on the agenda that said council approval is required, but it is not required, so we just need to take that off of there. And I do have one speaker card. For 17, Alana Chavez Langdon.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, board members, Mr. Nichols. My name is Alana Chavez Langdon. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations and Public Affairs for a company called Ecotality. We are a infrastructure provider of smart charging stations and network services. We are headquartered in San Francisco. We do have an LA office presence. And I wanted to quickly introduce Diana Gould, who has assumed our area manager position for Los Angeles. And Diana comes to us from SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments. So we're very lucky to have her. I just wanted to make a few brief comments in support of this item. Ecotality is the project manager of the U.S. Department of Energy's EV project. The project was expanded to Los Angeles last summer, and to support the rollout of 3,000 electric vehicles, a mix of Nissan Leafs and Chevrolet Volts here in the LA market. Installations for the DOE's EV project must be completed by December of 2011, and we are utilizing a local contractor network to complete this work. For the EV project alone in the city of Los Angeles, there are 288 project participants currently in our system. Ecotality started residential installations for these participants in January. By April 30th, we will have completed approximately 50 installs, with an additional 36 identified for May and 75 identified for June, bringing us to a total of 162 residential installations for the city of Los Angeles itself, with 130 more for the city in the pipeline. These will be scheduled to time with vehicle deliveries to the customers. We just wanted to commend LADWP for undertaking a program to support electric vehicles and to make the EV rebate program a success. We will do our part to help LADWP and the city to make this a success. Be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Sales, we have a presentation, if you don't mind going forward. Before I start, this effort has been a very intense effort between the department and Department of Water and Power, and also Department of Building and Safety, to make sure that the customers in the LA market see this as a seamless process as we go through this implementation process for the chargers to be deployed in the residences and the commercial areas, for them to be able to charge their electric vehicles. So with us today is the Chief Inspector for LA Building and Safety, Larry
Hello.
Galston.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And Marvin Moon is the head of our engineering. They're here to answer any questions. I'll quickly go through the presentation, if you don't mind, and then we really appreciate this effort that Building and Safety has provided us, and we do look forward for really cooperation to make this program successful. So, with that, I'll start just going through the presentation and the gist of the program and the rebates that we're offering. The electric vehicles are here in the market already. We're seeing requests coming in. What this proposal is all about is to make sure that we have a incentive program that will be there for the consumers for this market to take hold and to kind of overcome some of these issues that we have on the infrastructure and also on the electric grid system, for us to integrate these chargers as they're deployed in the city in a way that makes sense for us reliability-wise, and also makes sense for the consumers to take the step of purchasing these vehicles and moving forward. The request in the board package is for us to have a phase 1 implementation of a rebate program that kind of targets about the first 1,000 residential customers, and up to $2 million of funding that we will put out there, with the goal of having 3,000 to 5,000 chargers deployed eventually once we learn more about the processes and the support that we need to provide to make sure these are successful deployments. Why have this program out there, as a utility? The number one issue that we've put out there, and we've done a lot of study for almost a year and a half now in order for us to get ready for this point, is the infrastructure, the distribution system that we have needs to be robust enough for us to be able to serve the customers and this additional loads that are going to come to our grid. And for us to do that we are deploying a lot of technology out there for us to learn the behavior of the consumers, and also to make sure that we give feedback to the users, whether it's a pricing signal or any other feedback that we could give to the consumers for us to have these chargers deployed as we integrate more of our renewables into our system. So in a minute, I want to show you a curve of the energy generation from our renewables as they come in during the off-peak hours, and how we can leverage that as far as the incentives that we're putting together on pricing signals to make sure they coincide. This is the graph from 6 p.m. to midnight is when we want the consumers to charge their vehicles at home. And as you can see, the blue line is the pseudo profile of our wind generation as it comes to our system, and it coincides during that period between 6 and midnight, where we do have a lot of wind generation coming into our system, where if we increase the loading during that period, we will take up a lot of the slack coming into our system and use that as a battery storage for us to integrate the renewables into our grid. Our goal is, like I said, it's up to $2,000, and this is an out-of-pocket expense. So as the speaker mentioned, Ecotality and other suppliers are in the market. They have DOE funding in order for them to deploy charges free of charge, basically. And also the installation of these, and I'm going to go through a table of how different variation of the meters and the panels can take place in order for the consumer to hook up that charger to their existing electric system in their residence, and also take advantage of our incentives that we're going to put on there for the rates and other programs. What we are saying is if you spend up to $2,000 and you follow the guidelines of what we want to do is having a separate meter on your service, we will pay out-of-pocket cost up to $2,000 with the time of use meter, and also the installation cost of the conduits, the wiring, the upgrades that you do to your panels. And basically, we want that portion of that installation to be subsidized, the first thousands of that, and then also expanding it to the 3,000 to 5,000 range. And the total cost based on that, and not every installation is going to be $2,000, but the budget request is for $2 million for the first 1,000. We do have pricing signals that we put in place. One of them is the 2.5 cents off of our current rates, depending on what choices the consumer makes, and I'll go through the three tables that we will show you how to configure these installations. This portion here is where the Department of Water and Power and Bureau and Building and Safety has collaborated in order for us to make sure that when the requests come through, that we do have resources put in place for us to install the chargers within a 7-day period. So what Building and Safety has done, because they're the ones who see the permit requests at the beginning, they've tagged their permits with an EV tag for us to take hold. We get that information right away from them, saying that a permit has been requested for installing a charger. So since it's beyond the meter installation, the jurisdiction is, their inspectors are the ones who go out there and make sure that all the installations are done by the code, and also the interface between them and the Department of Water and Power comes in when the time comes for installing the meter and putting the panel, the upgrades in service. So without that collaboration between the two departments, you would have some gaps between the requests and the way we deploy resources. And we don't want to have that with the consumers. We want to collapse that time for them to request a permit, and then all the resources of the city will be lined up for them to basically charge. So we call it from the permit request to the charge is about 7 days. Of course, there's going to be some exceptions where some homes are not really safe for them to put additional load on them because of the wiring and stuff like that. Those are not included in the 7 days, but we will take those as they come, and we want to provide the same type of service to those customers, and we want to accelerate the inspections, and we want to accelerate the installation. At our service planning, we've done several things to do to accelerate that. We've added more resources to make sure we reply to the request. We've done testing on the meters. We have meters that are on standby, so we don't have to spend time testing them. So within the department, we've done a lot of effort to line up our resources. Building and Safety has done a lot of those changes on their side, and we've been collaborating with each other for months now, and that has paid off greatly as far as the customer seeing a seamless process.
I could anticipate that there very well may be some neighborhoods where there would be extra demand for potentially above other neighborhoods, and there would need to then be some additional changes in the infrastructure as well.
Yes.
There have to be the placement of additional transformers and then some. So that might add to that 7-day window. Is that a possibility, Aaron?
We have done, Commissioner, we have done for about 1.5 years now, as we were getting ready for this point, we have included those forecasts in our upgrades of the transformers and the wires, and as we were doing the infrastructure replacements, we kind of accounted for that. But that's kind of doing the upgrades ahead of time. But when we go for with the time of use meter, with the smart meters that we're going to put in there, we're going to also get more pinpointed data from the behavior of the charging patterns and stuff. And if we see any place where our infrastructure is going to be short, we will be responding to that upgrade in much quicker way. So that's why we are incentivizing customers to have time of use meter, and also allow us to basically look into when they charge, how long they charge, in order for us to anticipate the loading patterns of these vehicles coming into the system, and also to make sure the grid is not adversely affected as these things are clustered. Luckily, the first, I think we have like 60, 70 requests, 60. Somewhere around 60 to 70 charger requests. I was surprised to see the spread of those charges all across the city, and our forecasts were they were going to cluster into certain areas of the city, and we were going to see some overloads in different areas. So luckily, we're seeing a nice spread across the city. That's a good news for us.
And the smart meters, are they Zigbee, or what? How are they communicating back to the department?
We have the way the Zigbees are more internally, between the appliances and the protocol for them to talk to the meter. But what we want is the dedicated circuit that we're going to have to the vehicle charging. That meter is going to be our communication. We have several ways we communicate with our meters. It's fiber optics, wireless, some other means of communicating with the meters. So that's on our side of the. But internally, there are a lot of technologies that are coming together, and I think you talked. Ecotality is one of the suppliers where their charger itself is a communication device. So the charger itself gathers information and transmits information from the charger itself. So those are technologies that are still evolving. We're kind of standing on the meter side, looking to what's going to happen internally. But this is a way for us to really get a head start on reaching the goal of incentivizing the consumers, and also really understanding the behavior of the charging patterns of these vehicles. It's hard to read, but basically, I'll just summarize the three parts of this request. So some consumers are going to say, I have an old meter, mechanical meter, I just need a charger. and I don't need the rebate, and I don't need to transmit any information, and that's their choice. We will provide the service, the inspection from Building and Safety is normal upgrade of the panel or whatever they need to do to kind of get a dedicated charger pulled into their garage or whatever. And that category of consumers will not get any rebate because we don't get any information on the behaviors. We can't do any of those things that we said we were going to do. The second category is that some consumers are going to say, change my mechanical meter and put a time of use meter in place of the mechanical meter. That category of consumers will get a block of 500 kW per month, which we will give them a discount, 2.5-cent discount for the first 500 kW block of energy that they would use, assuming that having pulled a permit and installing a charger and having a vehicle in that residence allows them to get that discount to incentivize them for charging off-peak hours. The third one is the one that we want to incentivize, and which is the dedicated circuit to charge the vehicle with a separate meter that we could look into, and that will isolate the rest of the house from the charging load that they have. And that's the circuit that we would like to have installed in with these chargers, and that's going to give us the most benefit as far as planning and also servicing the consumers. And that category is going to get the 2.5. They're going to get the discount for unlimited usage of energy from that meter that's dedicated to the vehicle charging.
For these first 1,000 customers?
For the first 1,000, and also when we go to upgrade it to yes.
Up to 5,000.
Right now it's up to 5,000.
So just to be clear, if they elect to do the time of use meter that's separate for the EV charger, the proposal is to provide free electricity.
Not free electricity, 2.5 cents discount on the electricity, and subsidized out-of-pocket cost for all the installation costs that they had to go through to get that service installed. So if they did separate panel, for example, if their panel was not up to the grade, they had to put a separate panel, a separate breaker, conduits, anything that they had to do to get the charger installed. We will audit the invoices for the certified contractors, and we would pay up to $2,000 to subsidize that portion of the construction. And if they choose to use a supplier that has DOE funding, for example, Ecotality is one of those suppliers, they will give the charger free of charge to the consumer, and that they will deduct, say, about $600 off of the bill. So we will subsidize the rest of the installation and match that DOE funding for them. A couple of things on the permitting that I've mentioned, and Larry can add other information to this, is the Building and Safety has an online permitting process. So if you're buying a car and you're at the dealership, the dealers will have access to online permit, and it's a 24-hour turnaround that they've set up for EV charging permits. So they'll fill out the online application, they will tag it as an EV. Within 24 hours, they'll have the permit online, and this will expedite the permitting process. The second phase of it, they have to get a qualified contractor to actually go do the work, and that's all covered on the contracting laws and the Building and Safety inspection requests and all those processes that they have to go through. The minute they pull a permit, we would be notified from Building and Safety saying that there was a request for EV charging station, so you guys get ready for the meter and start watching the progress of this work. And when the time comes for us to change the meters or put a new meter, we'll be ready, the crews will be ready, and we will collapse that time it takes for us to get that charger in place. And that's the goal. We want to make sure the consumers don't see any gap between the services that the city provides between Building and Safety inspection, our meter. So For them, it should be transparent, and they just need to buy the car, request the charger, and we will be behind them as far as setting these processes in place. So that's one of the benefits of collaborating with building and safety. On our website, I have a lot of hard copies of questions and answers, guides, resources, and stuff like that. If you have a chance to go to our website and navigate through the resources that's out there, the application is in there as soon as the board approves that, and we could post the actual rebate application. We will go ahead and deploy that on the website, but the rest of the questions are going to be posted in there, and the consumer should be able to go to our website and go through the pages and find out all the information that they need. We've also done separate, we've had separate email, separate telephone number internally for any technical services. If it's a complicated installation and we need to give them additional technical support for them to upgrade their panels, we've added resources internally to take care of those calls. So if the 800 number at the department cannot answer the basic questions and they need additional support, we have a backup support lined up for them. This talks about some things that I've mentioned about the DOE funding and the suppliers that are out there, Ecotality being one of them, and there's other suppliers that have the DOE funding. We want to have an MOU, basically a standardized MOU between them as far as data sharing between us and the suppliers, and also the consumers need to be knowledgeable about what they're allowing these third-party vendors, to come in and take information from the DOE funding requirements. This is a website application that shows the charging, the chargers. So there's a lot of talk about range anxiety, about EVs running out of range, and there's a website that we're refining, and we might even have an iPhone app or some sort of an app that's going to come up for somebody to just punch in, I'm here, where's the next charging station for me to go and charge. So those are the things that the DOE funding that we have, that we are working with as far as the consumer behavior type things that we could deploy and help out. I've talked a little bit about the infrastructure. Again, this is our biggest benefit from having the smart meter deployed, and also making sure that we are ahead of the curve as far as making sure the trends are coming and that our infrastructure is there to support them. So whatever it takes for us to upgrade our substations, wires, poles, transformers, we are going to be watching and also upgrading the systems. We never want to be in a position where our grid is compromised with any of those new ways of loading our system. So in summary, these are the three categories I talked about. In your handout, there's a summary sheet. The first one is the regular installation, the time of use installation, and it goes through the different categories I mentioned. We want to encourage the consumers to go with the third option, which is a separate meter, separate dedicated circuit, where it gives us the most control, because eventually we want to use that to either demand response type application or also incentivizing the storage of these batteries for us to use as a storage capacity. And if we can develop that kind of usage, that's going to give us the benefit of not only shifting the resources to the night, but also using it for stability of the grid.
Are you suggesting that it could be a two-way system? Could you?
It could be.
So the car could fill up overnight, and if it's plugged in during the day, you should go back into the grid?
Part of our DOE testing that we're doing right now is to find out how it's possible for us to tap into those resources, of course with an agreement in place for us to use energy from those storage to support our system. And that's something that we will come up after we finish our studies with UCLA and USC and JPL, and that's one of the scopes of work that we're doing. So we're really excited about this effort. So we want to see this program successful. We want to see it deployed properly. We want to see all the city departments lined up to make sure LA becomes the EV capital of the world. So with that,
I'd like to actually make a comment on this, because I'd like to put this whole thing in context. It's not free. We're using our customers' money for doing this, and I want to point out that having gone through over the last few months here, some major cost cut efforts to try to get down that, might this seem incongruous, and I don't believe at all that it is. And electric vehicles and plug-in vehicles are out. They're coming. They will be in our system. They'll either be in our system in a manner that we use the information, and as Aram has indicated here, plan for it, learn from it, and make certain that it's integrated well, and hopefully, as is indicated, it matches up nicely when the time a lot of our renewable energy, our wind energy, comes in. So the load is matching nicely what we're getting in the way of that supply, of which, as we're going forward from 20% to 33%, more of that is going to be wind. Not all of it, but more of it will be. So knowing how that coincides and learning about that early on is important from a system perspective. So I guess I look at it from a first and foremost perspective. We're a utility, we provide service, and this is making certain that we understand, as kind of early adopters here, with eyes on LA, frankly being kind of the car central of certainly of North America on the user side, that we have good information about this and learn from it early on. I think the level of expenditure that we're talking about here is sufficiently nominal that it's appropriate. I think the downside of having it come in an uncontrolled manner where we're not dealing with it could have a problem significantly greater than the amount of money that we're talking about here. We're pleased to have Ecotality's role on here as being one of the parties that has gone out here and received some DOE funding to move forward on that. There can and could well be other vendors out there that do this as well. But I think our power system has done a great job in getting this there. There's been good work between our sustainability group and the power system in moving this forward, and I'm pleased with it. I think it's we're going to get some great information on it. We're going to be able to plan around it. We're going to get good, quick feedback on this in a way that the department can be, I think, on this matter ahead of the curve.
Thank you.
Question? I just want to know, assuming that the board approves this, what is the plan for promoting it in the community, marketing it? I mean, this DWP from time to time takes its licks. I think this is a really groundbreaking, forward-thinking program that we should get a lot of credit for. And I'm just sort of curious what the thinking is on the public outreach.
Well, we are. There will be good information coming out on this. We're putting information out on the web with regard to that. I probably have Aram speak what we're going to do in that regard, and perhaps Lorraine could speak to other things we're going to do to get some visibility for this.
Are we working with the car dealerships?
We are with manufacturers and also dealerships on making sure. So, I mean, probably, Commissioner, the same thing. We've learned a lot from the other rebates, like the solar and stuff. That I think it will be very helpful for us to have these workshops with the different groups of consumers, manufacturers, providers, in order for us to kind of put our programs out there, learn from it. We don't have every answer in this thing. We are going to learn from this, and we are going to fine-tune this to make sure it meets our goals. So the more we reach out and the more we have these two-way communication between the users and the suppliers and the contractors, we don't want to be in a situation where consumers are frustrated because of either a delivery system, either contractor, or some glitches in our system that we can't get them to say, this is the way I'm going to go. So that's what we would do.
Other comments?
Yes. Thank you, President Sales. I just wanted to ask a few questions having to do with the RCIS database, and are we ready for the smart meter information when it comes in?
We are part of, again, our the research that we're doing is this is going to be a fire hose of information coming in, and one of the things that we are preparing on doing is systems in place that sort through. We have experience in doing this when we run the system. We have information that millions of points that come to our system, and then we do sorting through that information, and we categorize it, and we scrub it, and we have some trending going on. The same thing is happening on the meter side as far as how that architecture is set up, where these information come through these meters and come to a warehouse, and from there gets sorted out. So there are systems that we're experimenting with. We are ready for this kind of a volume, but eventually when we deploy this throughout, not just electric vehicles, but just throughout the system, where smart meters become communication points for us for outage management, for asset management, and all those things, we do have to have that hub of scrubbing this data and also directing it to decision making that we could act on. Crews can respond to, or transformers can be replaced before blowing up, or profiles can be developed on different usages, and feedback can be given to the consumers.
Because I know we're working on modernizing our CIS system, and it's really not ready for prime time right now when it comes to smart meters. So I'm assuming that there's going to be staff interpreting the data that comes out of the smart meters and then plugging it into the existing CIS system? I'm asking the question.
Yeah, as far as the billing process, the CIS,
Right.
we're in the transition period. As far as the billing, that part is set for us, to take care of. We do have a patchwork we're going through to make it work. We're not
All right.
there yet. So to answer your question,
And we have the programmers who have been able to deal with this.
We've figured out the patchwork that we have to do, but as far as operational, data that comes in for profiling and stuff, we do have other software systems that will help us do that.
And just to be absolutely clear, this is single residence homes. This is not multifamily, and this is not commercial.
Actually, this can be multifamily. It would require the permission from the property owner to install these separate meter for that charging location.
All right. From the material, it didn't necessarily seem that way.
It is.
In fact, we have set up on our online 3 different ways of issuing permits for single-family residents, multi-unit residents, and commercial buildings.
But
So
our
permitting will
program
be in a
is only
separate-
going towards residential.
That's
at this
correct.
time.
Yeah.
Well, just to editorialize, I'm very excited by this, and I really appreciate the leadership of the GM and of you, Aaron and Lorraine, and all who worked on this. And thank you, gentlemen, for your work. It's really exciting, and I actually see this as a wonderful potential for helping the ratepayer ultimately, that this could be a source of revenue during the off-peak hours where the city can provide the fuel for our automobiles, at the same time keep the money here in LA rather than sending it abroad. So I think there's so many reasons why we should line up behind this program, and just applaud you for moving it forward.
Just economically, I forgot to mention the cost with our current rates, 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour. It translates to about $1 per gallon type equivalency. So, and it's getting, the manufacturers are really rushing to make sure those efficiencies are in place, just like any technology, and we're watching that. And right now, the price with the gas being at $4 plus, it's really attractive for these vehicles to be on the roads.
And it's going to clean our air, which is important too.
Other comments or questions? I really want to associate myself with the comments of Commissioner Parker. This really is a wonderful program. I think it'll benefit this city for a long time to come. Is there a motion to approve item 17?
Yes, there is.
So moved. Any objection? Hearing none, item 17 passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barbara, am I missing anything?
We have filed item number 18.
Yes, okay. Any questions or comments on that? Items deemed filed. Mr. Brown is not here.
So Ms. Riley can...
I'm Mr.
Mr.
Brown.
Brown, okay. This is a
Hi,
vast
Mr. Brown.
improvement, thank you.
The board is recessing into closed session. The board shall publicly report any action in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54957.1 of the California Government Code.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Perfect.
We have just a couple of items, so.
Perfect.